for your dutiable value. Okay, so just a quick rundown. So you have 4 elements. So you have your customs value, you have your dutiable rate, then next your dutiable insurance, and lastly your dutiable other charge. So since we have already gone through the components of dutiable value, our next discussion for this second video, we will be discussing the components of your landed cost.
And could mass more than a large
components of your landed cost will be first your dutiable value, which we have already again summarized earlier, which we discussed in our first
that the forces of chaos, the great enemy,
next component would be our customs duty, followed by our
if there is even a
bank
chance
charge.
that they are
The
here,
next one
we must
is
seek them out
our
and
brokerage
destroy
fee.
them.
This is
Inquisitor
regulated
Thoth is
by
demanding that we leave
under
the planet,
customs
but of all the
administrative or
powers his
governed by
position
customs
grants him,
administrative order
commandeering a space marine company is not
1-2001.
one of them.
The
I must
next
admit
is our
that I find
warfage
his presence
due,
unwelcome so soon
which
after
is
the events
under
on my homeworld of
Customs
Cyrene.
Memorandum Order
Inquisitors have a way of
26-95
inflaming a guilty
and
conscience.
Customs Memorandum
And
Order
I do not need right
4-2006
now.
and Customs Memorandum Order 7-2014, followed by our arrastre charge, which is governed by Customs Memorandum Order 26-95C and CMO 7-2014. The next is your Customs Documentary Stamp, which is fixed at 280 pesos. Then lastly is our Import Processing Fee, or IPF, which is governed by Customs Administrative Order 2-2001. So that is the components of our landed cost.
This warp storm could
Let's
trap
not
us
talk
here
about
for
the
a month or
details.
for a century.
We have discussed already
cannot
your
risk
dutiable
staying
value,
here.
right?
We
So
must
the customs
evacuate
duty,
Tartarus before it
your
arrives
customs
in 3 days'
duty
time.
is governed
The
by your
Imperial Guard
section
and Holy Fleet can
1610 of your
attend to the
CMPA,
evacuation. The
right?
Blood Ravens have more pressing
In which-
matters to contend
So
with.
depending on
As
how
I
you
believe
would classify
agents of chaos
your
have
goods,
taken strong
there
root
is a
here.
I
corresponding
sense
rate
no
of
taint
duty.
here. Even so,
for
were there a
each
chaos presence on
product.
Tartarus?
Once
It is
you
better we
have
leave
classified
them here
it
with
and
the
you know
orcs than waste
already
more
the
lives
rate of
fighting them.
duty,
We could
you
wish
just
a worse
simply
fate for
multiply
either of our enemies,
that rate of
and to be
duty
trapped with the other.
to your
But
dutiable
we must
value
leave
in
here.
peso to come up with your
That is a matter for my
customs
brothers and I to
duty.
decide.
Okay.
We will use these
The
3
next
days to settle our
is your
affairs
bank
and
charge.
satisfy
So
our
your bank charge,
suspicions.
basically,
Meanwhile,
if you
have
are
our transports to facilitate
your bank
evacuation.
charge, if you are using
The
LC
captain and I
as
must
your
attend to matters
mode
of
of payment,
If you would leave us,
you need to indicate
please.
But
a
surely
bank
this
charge
involves
in,
me as
in
a-
the
Forgive me
elements
for
of
not
your
being
landed
clear
cost,
on the
which is
matter.
this
I
is
said
1/8
please,
of
when in fact I
1%
meant
of your
now.
DD, or
This
0.00125
does involve him.
multiplied by
We should
your
have shown
DD.
him a modicum
Okay,
of
so
respect.
you will get already
Captain,
your
You
bank charge.
uncovered extensive
But
heresy
no,
in your home world.
If you are
Cyrene,
the mode of your
was
if
it?
your mode
That
of
has
payment
nothing
is
to
other
do
than
with the events here on Tartarus.
letters of
But I
credit,
believe they do.
let's say telegraphic
You
transfer,
requested the Inquisition
you
undertake
don't
an
need to
exterminatus.
put a bank
The
charge.
destruction
okay?
of your planet's
So
entire
bank charge, you
populace,
just add it
which we
into your landed cost
oblige.
when you
I still fail
when
to
your
see.
mode of payment
Captain,
is under
I am
letters
not
of
questioning your
okay?
loyalty,
So I hope that's clear.
but I must
So
wonder
kapag
if
bank
your
charge
actions
po,
on Cyrene
ay kapag
have not
LC, you need to
affected
put
your
bank
judgment.
charge.
Perhaps
Kapag
that
other
was
than
a
LC yung
poor
mode of
choice of
payment,
words.
hindi nyo na po
I
kailangan.
merely
lagyan.
fear that you might see
Let's
chaos,
now go to your
but it does not exist.
brokerage fee.
I
Okay.
ask that
So,
as a loyal
yung sa
subject of
brokerage
the Emperor,
fee nyo po, no?
who
So
served
based
the
on your
Imperium's interests
CAO 1-2001, okay? So customs brokerage fees covered by
Inquisitor,
formal
had no
or
right to speak to you in
warehousing
such a
entries,
manner.
entrance shipments,
But
may table po
he
siya.
is right.
Okay?
The
So,
coming storm
depending
will trap
kung
our
ano
enemies
po
here
yung,
where they can consume
yung
one another.
amount
And
ng
what if the
dutiable
forces of
value nyo,
chaos
may
escape the system
corresponding
before the
rate siya.
storm?
So you can
No,
see that table
we will
in
not
your
use this frank
CAO
occurrence as an excuse to avoid
1-2001.
our enemies or our
But if your
responsibility. They are
your
here for a
dutiable
reason.
value is over
We will
200,000
discover that reason.
pesos,
We are with
okay,
you, brother Captain.
so
As always.
ang magiging formula nyo na po is
coming your way in full
5.3,
You should
okay,
hear their heavy feet
plus
long before you
1/8
see them,
of
and
1%
smell them
in
long before
excess,
that.
okay, ng 200,000. Okay, kapag more than 200,000 siya, so 5.3 plus 1/8 of 1%.
the dropship landed in this general proximity.
To simplify,
We discovered
diba,
the path,
medyo
Captain.
parang komplikado, no, sa
Someone has
computation.
been digging here.
To simplify,
Orcs?
I've never seen
diba
an
kanina
orc land
nabanggit
such a clever
natin sa
hand to
bank
a
charge,
task.
If it wasn't orcs,
0.00125
then it must be the
Tama
forces
po.
of chaos.
ng dutiable value. That is your bank charge. So dito, para hindi po kayo ma-confuse, no, kapag
We
more
will
than
follow this path and
200,000
discover
po
the truth
ang
behind what has
inyong
transpired here.
dutiable value, okay, gagana lang po itong formula na to kapag more than 200,000, ha. Please take note, ang dutiable value nyo. So if it's more than 200,000,
The sacred
it's
artifact
the
will
formula
now be
for your
available to
brokerage
us.
fee, shortcut
Instruct
formula
it,
po to.
yes, we will have access to
5,050
abilities.
Yes, my lord.
Okay, plus 0.00125 of your dutiable value. Okay, so yun po, yun ang ating formula. Okay, so basically para po siyang 5,050 plus bank charge. Yun po. So that's the other way of
Here to serve.
stating it, no, formula wise.
With all
Para
due
po,
haste.
kasi kung yung 1/8 of 1% pa, diba, in excess of the 200,000, so medyo mahaba pa yung formula. So, shortcut na po namin yon. So, next
This
one,
day shall
let's
be a
now go
glorious
to
one for the
your in computing your Arastre and
To me,
War
brother,
phase.
there's no such thing as innocence.
Now,
Only
before
degrees
we
of guilt.
discuss it, there is a criteria, no, in computing
Yes.
your Arastre and Warfage
Yes.
for assessment purposes. So first, you need to determine the port of discharge.
Build routine
Kasi iba po
721
yung,
initiate
Marine squad deployed.
Assessment
None can
ng
stand
Arastre
before the
Warfage kapag
Inquisition.
outports at kapag major ports. No? But don't confuse
How can I
yourself
say?
first.
Beware
Ito pong
the
pinag-uusapan natin ngayon is for the major ports muna, no? Yung MIP,
My lord.
Biasi, no? MICP,
Yes.
and Port of Manila or South Harbor. Then, yun na nga po, determine kung ano yung applicable issuance.
I
So,
am
in this case,
yes.
since major ports ang pinag-uusapan natin, ang applicable
I am ready to
Scouts
act.
ready.
issuance niya is your
Yes.
CMO7-2040.
Scouts ready.
So, yun po, based on that issuances, you can now determine kung ano yung applicable
Here
Arastre
to
or
serve.
Warfage phase. So, we have discussed kung ano po yung criteria. So, now, what is Arastre? Okay? So, by definition, Arastre, it is the amount which the owner,
Scouts ready.
consignee,
None can
or
stand
agent
before
of
the
either
Inquisition.
of the merchandise has to pay for the receiving, handling, and custody of the merchandise imported or for export. So, yan po yung ating definition ng Arastre. So, basically, yan po yung binabayaran natin doon sa operators, kay ICTSI, kay Arastre Operator, kay ICTSI, or kay ATI. The
Scouts
ATI
in
po
position.
is Asian Terminals Incorporated, is a South Harbor, Arastre Operator,
Commencing
and yung
infiltration.
ICTSI naman po is your Arastre Operator sa MICP. Alright. So, based on
Gathering
your
intelligence.
CMO7-2014, no? As I mentioned,
My faith
the
is my
law governing
shield.
your Arastre
I
charges
am
for
ready
assessment
to pass
purposes,
judgment.
may table po na nakalagay doon. So, just grab a copy and makikita nyo po,
Scouts awaiting
very
orders.
clear naman po yun. For example, kung 20-footer po yung inyong shipment, ang Arastre charge nyo po is, for import po, no? For import is 3,727 pesos. No, that is exclusive
Here
of
to
VAT.
serve.
And kung 40-footer naman po, per container, no, it's
An open mind is like a
8,551
fortress
pesos.
with its gates
So
unbarred
yung amount na po yan po ang gagamitin nyo doon sa pag-compute.
and carry a big
Now, for assessment, please take note. This is for
Position
assessment
secure.
purposes. Okay? So,
Here to
huwag niyo
serve.
pong i-confuse yung sarili niyo. Ito po kasi yung binayaran namin sa na
What is it you
actual.
desire?
Hindi po. Huwag niyo po isipin yun.
I'm leaving you
May
in
regulation
command.
po,
The
which
enemy
is
shall give me reason
CMO
to return.
7-2014,
You must
na
stand on your
nagmamandate
words.
na ito yung
My
rates na
faith
kailangan
is
nyo
my
gamitin
shield.
kapag for assessment purposes. Ibig sabihin, pag magpo-compute kayo ng duties and taxes,
Knowledge
and
is
in turn,
power.
yun din po yung
Hide it well
i-declare nyo na computation
at your
sa
command.
E2M, no?
Through the destruction
in
of our
filling up your
enemies
single
to earn
administrative
our
document.
salvation.
So, I hope klaro po yun na
Yes, my
huwag
lord.
pong ma-confuse doon sa actual na binayaran. Okay, hindi po yun ang gagamitin. Ang gagamitin po is yung rates na nakalagay sa CMO 7-2014.
Yes,
Po.
most beneficent
So,
one.
So makikita nyo doon sa table, you have your
Scouts
your
advance.
FCL
Yes,
for
my lord.
your full container load for
I
import
am
and export,
prepared.
and
On
then
alert,
yun po
brothers.
yung mga
The enemy must be
shout out
nearby. Yes.
cargo rates.
On
No?
my
But
way.
these are
On
for
alert,
assessment
brothers.
purposes.
The enemy must be nearby.
Let's go to your warpage. No? What is your warpage? Okay.
We
It's
are the
it is
Emperor's
the amount assessed
The
against the cargo of a vessel engaged in foreign or cost-wise trade based on the quantity,
Follow me
weight,
into battle.
or measurement received and or discharged by such vessel, either the owner,
They
consignee,
weren't
or
attacking.
agent
They
of the
were
merchandise
Scouts
is
awaiting
liable
orders.
Fear and
for such
Strategic
charge.
point identified.
So, warpage usually po ito
My
sinisingil
faith
po
is
ng
my shield.
PPA, okay,
Yes,
Philippine Ports Authority. At again, huwag po maguluhan.
Yes,
Discussion
most
natin is
beneficent
for
one.
assessment purposes. Ibig
With
sabihin,
all due haste,
para lang
here
po
to
sa
serve.
computation ng duties and taxes po ito, ha? Wala pong kinalaman yung actual na binabayaran. Alright, so, for your wharfage charges, you need to refer again to CMO 7-2014. So, may
Secure.
table na naman po siya
I
ron.
will do
So, kung
as you
import
ask.
cargo po siya na full container load, ang 20 footer nyo po, ang rate na ilalagay nyo is 519.35,
Protocol.
that is exclusive of that.
Scouts awaiting
Sa
orders.
40 footer nyo naman po, it's 779 pesos 0.05 cents. Okay, so on and so forth. So, yan po yung mga
The Emperor
amounts na
protects.
kailangan yung gamitin. Depende kung 20, 40, o 45 footer ba yung container na pinarating nyo. And of course, please do not forget, per container po itong rate, no? Yung sa Arastre and dito sa wharfage as indicated in your CMO 7-2014. Huwag niyo po kalimutan i-multiply doon sa number of containers. Kunyari, 10 by 40. So, you need to multiply the wharfage or Arastre rate per container sa number of containers. Okay? Baka makalimutan niyo po kasi. Continue. Okay. So let's now discuss your IPF,
Yes,
no, your import processing
Control.
fee. So there is a table based on your
The Emperor
CO2-2001
Terror.
that states the rates
Yes,
and
my
customs
lord.
fees
On
and
patrol.
charges for your
Something is not right
IPF.
here.
No?
These
So yung
orc
IPF
bodies
nyo
do
po
not
for
look like
formal
they were
and
dispatched
informal
by
entities,
imperial
ang
hands.
table nyo po
We must
is
proceed with caution.
yung dutiable value, no, based on dutiable value, no, up to 250,000 pesos. Your IPF is 250. So hindi po mahirap tandaan. From 0 to 250, ang rate is 250 pesos. So over 250 hanggang 500,000 pesos, ang
On
rate
alert,
is
brothers. The enemy
500.
must be nearby.
So, di ba po, yung dulo-dulo lang ang tatandaan. Then, over 500,000 pesos, up to 750,000 pesos, ng dutiable value, ang IPF rate is
Today the enemy
750
shall know
pesos.
fear.
Then next, over 750,000 pesos, ang IPF rate is 1,000 pesos. So, apat lang po yun, no?
Here to
So, it's
serve.
not hard to remember kasi yung dulo-dulo lang. Diba? Yung up to 250, so 250 siya. Up to 500, so 500 din po siya. Up to 750,000, so 750 naman po. Then over 750,000 pesos, 1,000. Okay? Alright, so since alam na natin, no, how to compute all the components of your landed cost, let's go to your summary.
We stand ready.
So, isa-summarize na natin yung computation
The
natin.
enemy must be nearby. Eldar.
From the top. So,
Mistaken
CUD,
about the presence of the
okay, ito
forces
po
of
yung
chaos. Be it
suitable
Eldar
value nyo
or
times yung
chaos
rate of
danger.
duty.
I will have the answers either way.
It's the first
Press
line
on.
of your
any
summary.
enemy positions.
Second line of your summary or second item is your value-added tax. How do you compute that? By simply multiplying
Overhead and mark any enemy positions.
12% to your landed cost. Okay? Yun po kung walang excise tax.
Only degrees
Okay?
of guilt.
We
Pero
stand
kung may
ready.
excise tax po siya, your VAT would be
Apothecaries
landed
are
cost
standing by to tend to our
plus
wounded. Build
whatever
them
is your
at the
excise
sacred
tax is,
artifact.
then times 12%. Okay, you add your landed cost and excise tax, then saka nyo imumultiply ng 12% to come up with your VAT. Opo. So, I hope that's clear.
Apothecary ready.
Next item, if any lang po kung meron, excise tax. No, you have to indicate
Apothecary
in
ready.
your summary
The
your
fallen shall be
excise.
forever remembered.
Next.
The emperor's finest.
Is your IPF. Okay,
Walk softly
so
and carry a
as
big gun.
discussed earlier, no? So,
For the
depende
emperor.
kung sa value ng goods nyo. The next one, okay, the fifth one, you need to indicate your container security fee. Ano ba po yung container security fee or how much? That is $5 per 20 footer or $10 per 40 footer. So, yun po yung amount. No, kunyari, ang shipment nyo is 10 by 40. Alright? So, you have to, so, yung container security fee nyo is $10 per 40 footer. So, you need to multiply it by 10 containers. So, that is a total of $100. Okay? So, yung $100 na yon, using the exchange rate, no, na we have discussed during the first video, yun ang gagamitin nyo to convert it to peso. Kasi lahat po nung items dito sa summary nyo is naka Philippine peso na po. Okay? So lastly, ng summary nyo is your customs documentary stamp, which is fixed at 280 pesos. So you add all those items, no? To recap, your customs duty, your VAT, excise tax, if any, then you have your IPF, your CSF, your container security fee, and your CDS or customs documentary stamps. You add those, so yun na po yung magiging composition nyo ng duties, taxes, and other charges. Okay, yun na po yun. Take note, ito, pakitandaan po ito. Siyempre po, may mga decimal points po yung computation natin. Tama po? Pag nag-round off tayo, etc. So, laging 2 decimal points. Pag nilagay nyo po yung, kunyari, nag-compute kayo ng customs duty, meron siyang, let's say, may butal siya, may cent siya na 0.20. Okay, whatever the whole number is, then may 0.20. Kapag ang decimal point po is less than 0.5, no? Pag less than 0.5 po siya, tanggalin nyo na lang po. Just remove the cents. Kunyari, 1,000.20. Okay, yung customs duty. So, magiging, pag sinulat nyo siya sa summary, magiging 1,000 na lang siya. Okay? Right. Pero, kapag 0.5 naman po siya, pataas. So, kunyari, it's either 0.5 or 0.6 or 0.7. Kunyari, 1,000.5. I-round off nyo na po yun sa nearest full number. So, magiging, yung 1,000.5, magiging 1,001 na po siya. Okay? So, I hope you were able to follow. Importante po yun. Kasi, yung duties and taxes po, yung total customs duties, taxes, and other charges po natin, whole number lang po. Wala po siyang decimal point. Yun po yung rationale doon. That's why I hope everybody was able to follow our the second part of our theoretical discussion. So please stay tuned for our third video, third and last video, which is we will apply all those that we have learned here in the first two videos. So magkakaroon po tayo ng practical application para mas for your better understanding nung sa theoretical part. So again, thank you very much and stay safe.
Who requires my aid?
Yes.
Hi guys, we are now on the third video of our discussion on how to compute duties, taxes, and other charges for containerized cargoes discharged at the South Harbor or Manila International Container Port. Before we continue, just a quick recap of what we have discussed so far. So, yung una po nating video, diniscuss po natin doon yung ating dutiable value, okay, and its elements. Then, yung second video naman po natin, we have discussed the landed cost, its elements, and also the total duties, taxes, and other charges, and its components or elements as well. Since natapos na po natin yung theoretical part nung ating discussion, okay, ito po ngayon, ang susunod po nating pag-uusapan is yung practical application naman po na tutunan natin. Okay. So, ang nakikita nyo po ngayon sa inyong screen, gumawa po tayo ng isang scenario just to apply kung ano po yung natutunan po natin dun sa first two videos.
Scouts reporting for duty.
Meron po tayong shipment na 1/40 that contains various sporting goods. Okay? And discharge po siya sa MICT. Then we have a mode of payment which is letters of credit. Okay. And then we have an invoice price of $35,000. FOB, Port of Shanghai, China. The next, meron po tayong freight certification from the shipping line which amounts to $850. And then, kumuha po tayo ng local insurance premium at 9,675 pesos and 80 cents. Of course, with certification and OR din po yan. Then, after classifying our goods, we came up with a rate of duty of 1%. And our exchange rate, prevailing exchange rate po natin is 48 pesos and 379 cents per $1. So now let's compute for your total duties, taxes, and other charges. Alright, so based on the given, ang step 1 po natin is we need to convert yung dutiable insurance po natin into dollar. So, madali lang po, yung peso po natin, we just divide it to our exchange rate, then you will arrive at the dutiable insurance of $200. Okay, next is our step 2. Step 2 po natin is we add the elements or the components of our dutiable value. So, since in this case, or in this problem, or in this scenario, wala pong sinabi na mandatory revisions. So, we are assuming there is none. Okay. So, ang components lang po ng dutiable value natin is your customs value of $35,000. Dutiable freight of $850, dutiable insurance of $200. So a total of $36,050 and $50. Okay. Then we have to convert that into peso. By multiplying our exchange rate, we will come up with a DV in peso of 1,744,062 pesos and 95 cents. So susunod po, our step 3, okay, we compute for the customs duty. Okay. So, of course, na-convert na po natin yung DV natin into peso. So, all we have to do is multiply our rate of duty of 1%. So, we will have a customs duty of 17,440 pesos and 63 cents. The next step, step 4, we compute for the bank charge kasi po under LC po siya. Okay? So, your DV in peso, you multiply by the bank charge rate of 0.00125, which is 1/8 of 1%. So, we will arrive at an amount of 2,180 pesos and 8 cents for your bank charge. So, next step, step 5 po, we compute for the brokerage fee. Dahil ang dutiable value po natin is more than 200,000, so we can use our shortcut formula, no? So which is bank charge plus yung fixed amount po natin na 50/50, no? So bank charge plus 50/50, 5,050, we will have a brokerage fee of 7,230 pesos and 8 cents. Okay, so I hope nasusundan po, no? Next step is our step 6. No, so we need to arrive or we need to know kung ano po yung ating arrastre, wharfage, CDS, which is your Customs Supplementary Stamp, and your import processing fee. Okay, so for the arrastre, based on your CMO 7-2014, yung 40-footer rate is 8,551 pesos. Yung wharfage naman po is 779 pesos and 5 cents. Yung CDS natin, naka-fix po siya sa 280 pesos. And then, yung IPF natin, yung import processing fee, okay, dahil more than 750,000 po ang ating dutiable value, so 1,000 pesos. So, since alam na natin lahat nung na-compute na po natin lahat ng elements po ng ating landed cost, so our step 7 would be adding all those elements, no? To start, your dutiable value of 1,744,062 pesos, 62 pesos and 95 cents. Okay. Next is your customs duty of 17,440 pesos and 63 cents. Next is your bank charge of 2,180 pesos and 8 cents. Next to be added is your brokerage fee of 7,230 pesos and 8 cents. Next is your wharfage due of 779 pesos and 5 cents. Next is your arrastre of 8,551 pesos. Next is your CDS fixed at 280. And lastly, adding your IPF of 1,000 for a total landed cost of 1,781,522 pesos and 84 cents. Okay, so our second to the last step is computing your value-added tax or VAT. So since alam na natin yung landed cost, wala pong na-mention na excise tax. So we just multiply our LC with the VAT rate of 12%, arriving with a value-added tax of 213,782 pesos and 74 cents. And our last step, step 9, okay, we summarize the components of our total duties, taxes, and other charges. Start with your customs duty of 17,441, value-added tax of 213,783, import processing fee of 1,000, container security fee of 484 pesos. Kinonvert na po natin yung $10, no? Per 40 footer. Multiply the given exchange rate. Then yung fixed na CDS of 280 pesos. For a total of 232,988 pesos. Okay, please take note po, no? Yung rounding off rules natin. No, nakita nyo po, lahat po ito wala na pong decimal, full numbers po siya lahat. So, again, just to reiterate, yung ating pag-round off kapag 0.5, less than 0.5, okay, tanggalin na po natin yung cents. Pero kapag 0.5 and above siya, round off to the nearest
The
full
Emperor
number.
protects.
At your
Parang
command.
katulad po niyan, sa VAT nyo.
Gathering
Diba po, ang VAT natin is 213,782.74. Nung nilipat natin sa summary, since 0.74 siya, so round off to the nearest whole number, naging 213,783 pesos. Okay. That ends our discussion on how to compute duties, taxes, and other charges
Search
for
commencing.
containerized cargoes discharged at the South Harbor or MICT. Hope
Here to
you were
serve.
able to equip you better in understanding this very technical world of international trade.
Here to serve.
Please do not forget to hit the like
Today,
and
the
subscribe
enemy shall
button
know fear.
on our Port Calls
Faith and
YouTube
duty.
channel
Scouts
video.
here.
Thank you and stay safe.
On
Hello
patrol,
everyone!
we will move
Welcome
ahead
to the Port
and mark
Calls
any
YouTube
enemy
channel.
positions.
Ngayon,
Yes, Lord.
pag-usapan natin ang
Here to
5
serve.
common mistakes made by importers.
Dark
This
Reapers,
discussion
fall
is
back.
based
We
on the
need
Port
Rhino
Calls
transport
column
tanks.
of
They will allow us
International
to get
Trade
through
and
these
Customs
gates and
expert
attack the Dark
Attorney
Reapers on those
Agaton
cliffs
Ibero.
above.
Here it goes.
Orders received, brother.
Mistake number 1, being ignorant of the import process. The
Rhino
Philippine
transports
customs
are now
process
available.
is still
Build them at the
arguably
machine cart.
manual, archaic, and tedious. Alam niyo ba, more than 40 Philippine government agencies and other parties have issued their own import
serve.
regulations. Iba't ibang mga
I exist to
regulations
serve.
na yon. Akalain mo yon?
With all
If you
due
come to think
haste.
about it, edi ang gulo-gulo. Anong gagawin mo
Scouts in
pagka
position.
ganon? Importante, naiintindihan nyo ang proseso at pagplanuhan nyo ng mabuti ang gagawin nyo. Tungkol sa mga anong bagay. Number 1, yung proseso, yung risks in selecting suppliers abroad. Ngayon, payment terms and
Initializing
arrangements.
protocol.
Halimbawa, yung letter of credit na binubuksan ninyo sa bangko. O, pangatlo,
I await
ano ba
your
talaga ang role
instructions.
ng mga forwarders at customs brokers? Naiintindihan nyo ba?
With all due haste.
At syempre, higit sa lahat, ang pinaka-importante, ano ba talaga ang import rules and regulations? Lalo na kung nag-uumpisa ka at medyo bago ka,
I will
hindi
do
mo naman
as you ask.
ine-expect na maiintindihan mo o alam mo agad lahat ang gagawin mo dahil nakakalito talaga yon. So, anong alternative mo? Mag-hire ka ng expert. Hingi tayo ng tulong dun sa mga nakakaintindi talaga, yung matagal na sa negosyo na ito, yung meron talagang experience, para nagagabayan tayo sa step-by-step process. At tama ang mga gagawin natin. Now we go to mistake number 2.
What are your needs?
Not understanding Incoterms or international commercial terms. Ano nga bang Incoterms? Yan ang ginagamit na terms pagka bumibili ka ng kahit na ano overseas. Pag may kontrata ka, bumili ka ng produkto sa ibang bansa, yan ang gagamitin mong terms. Para hindi kayo magkagulo. Kunyari, ikaw o yung nagbenta sa'yo, hindi nag-comply sa
Scouts awaiting
pinag-usapan
orders.
ninyo,
Yes, my lord.
ano ngayon ang gagawin mo?
Gathering intelligence.
Importante may Incoterms.
On patrol.
Kasi lahat ng responsibilities ninyo,
Getting into
buyer
position.
man at seller,
Getting into
nandoon.
position.
Ito ay tungkol sa
Move
delivery,
ahead. and mark
Documents.
any enemy positions.
risks, sino
Scouts
magbabayad ng insurance,
Getting into position.
costs. The trading terms used define which party pays for insurance, freight or transport costs, and in case of loss or damage to the goods, which party will claim against the insurance. Ngayon, dumako tayo sa mistake number 3. Not knowing your product. Importers
How can I
should have
serve?
knowledge of import requirements for each product. Dapat alam niyo yung mga requirements sa mga ini-import ninyo. For instance, foods, drugs,
Venerate the
and
immortal
cosmetics
emperor.
imported in commercial quantities. They require product
Today, the enemy shall
registration
know fear.
prior to the actual importation.
The fallen
Hindi kayo
shall be
basta-basta
forever
mag-i-import ng
praised
kung
by
ano-ano
Shura's
lang.
finest.
Kailangan may mga registration yan at alam nyo dapat yan bago pa kayo mag-import. Another example, wood products.
I shall not fail.
Kailangan yan heat-treated or kaya fumigated. Chemicals may contain hazardous or prohibited substances
Scouts ready.
and need safety certificates.
Search
Baka
complete.
sumabog na lang yan. O kaya magliyab. In
How can I
addition,
serve?
exporting countries may
My
require
knowledge is at your disposal.
quarantine,
And carry a big
sanitary,
gun.
phytosanitary, and safety in case of hazardous materials, for example,
My
or
faith is my
quality
shield.
certificates.
Be swift, driver.
Now, failure to secure import or export certificates from
The
proper
battlefield
authorities may result in seizure
Squad
of the
embarking.
shipment. Pagka hindi kayo nakakuha ng tamang
Apology.
certificate, magpalagay mo na, hindi nyo makukuha kargamento nyo at matetenga yan sa port. Pag alam nyo ang klase ng goods na ini-import ninyo, di madedetermine mo na ngayon ang customs duties and
Knowledge is
taxes
power.
at
The fallen shall be
makakalkula mo na
forever remembered as the
ang landed
emperor's
cost.
finest.
Now, let's go to mistake number 4. Failing to hire a competent forwarder or customs
Yes,
broker.
Lord.
Ano ba
Yes,
trabaho
Lord.
ng freight forwarder? Pinapack niya ang goods, di ba? Tapos, itatransport sa warehouse. Siya na bahala from beginning
My knowledge
until
is
the
at
end
your disposal.
hanggang dumating ang kargamento. So, yung mga freight forwarder na yan, usually, meron din silang customs clearance service.
Stay vigilant.
So,
brothers.
ikaw,
What
as
is
an
it you
importer,
desire?
pwede mong i-hire yung freight forwarder, siya na din yung customs broker, or kung gusto mo naman, hiwa-hiwala
Scouts
yan.
reporting for duty. Yes,
Hire
my
ka ng
lord.
freight forwarder,
On
hire ka
patrol.
ng customs broker, hire ka ng tracker. Kaya lang baka mas matrabaho yun. Pero nasa sayo yun. Kung dun ka komportable,
Marine SWAT deployed.
go ahead, you can do that.
The fallen shall be
Huwag ka lang
forever
mag-hire ng
remembered as the
basta-basta kung
emperor's
sino-sino ha.
finest.
Yung tinatawag na fly-by-night.
Knowledge is
Kasi
power.
baka dyan ka talaga
I am
sumabit.
ready
Which
to
means,
pass judgment.
sayang lang yung mga binayad mo, yung nilabas mong pera, kung matetenga lang ang kargamento. It's important
Scouts
for
in
importers
position.
to look at the track record of
Yes.
service providers they contract.
By order
Additional
of the
costs
Inquisition,
in delays
I am
in
taking
release of
command
goods
here.
could result from engaging an inexperienced provider. Remember that. Now, let's go to the last one. Mistake number 5, employing shortcuts, not being compliant. Now, most service providers look at the import process from a purely
I
logistics
am
perspective.
prepared. No one
And because of this,
will stop
there is
us.
less focus
No one
on
will
ensuring
stop
compliance with trade and
Yes.
customs
Scouts awaiting
regulations.
orders.
Ano ba ibig sabihin nun?
Scouts in position.
Marami kasi sa atin,
Search commencing.
tinitignan lang yung transport side. Minsan, nakakaligtaan nyo na how to clear the goods. Kailangan nagko-comply talaga kayo sa trade and customs
On
regulations.
patrol.
Kasi, marunong
Yes,
nga
my
kayo
lord.
mag-ship. Kaso,
I have a
hindi niyo naman alam paano mag-clear yung kargamento nyo. Ay di wala rin nangyari. Nandyan lang yan
We
sa port.
stand ready.
Now, when you're
Disembarking.
confronted with
The fallen
compliance
shall be
issues,
forever remembered as the
anong
emperor's
tendency?
finest.
Anong ginagawa natin? Marami sa atin guilty dito. Nako! Mag-hire na lang tayo ng fixers.
There is no such thing as innocence.
Ang fixers
Only
kasi,
degrees of guilt.
temporary solution lang yan. Siyempre, babalik ng babalik ang problema mo. Because you keep importing, right?
Disembarking.
Ano gagawin nyo
What are your
ngayon?
needs?
Tandaan nyo, meron pang customs audit, pwede rin kayo ma-audit. Kaya it's really best that you comply.
None
Kesa
can
naman
stand
nininervyos
before
ka,
the
baka mamaya
Inquisition.
ma-audit ka pa.
By order of the Inquisition,
Minsan,
I
ang
am taking
proseso
command
napapatagal
here.
dahil nagko-comply
I
ka.
stand ready.
Pero sure ka naman na lalabas ang kargamento mo.
My
Successful.
knowledge is at your
When you
disposal.
comply at wala kang shortcuts
This is
na
where I leave
ginagawa.
you.
Shortcuts
The fallen shall
only
be
provide
forever
temporary
remembered as the
solutions.
emperor's finest.
Issues may haunt you.
The Emperor
Importer na parang
protects.
multo in the future.
Disembarking.
Especially when there is fraud involved and when a customs audit is conducted.
of his will.
In the end, what what is it that you really need to do in order to have a successful importing business.
The battlefield awaits.
Kailangan naiintindihan
No
nyo ang
servant to
rules,
the Emperor shall your needs.
nakakapaghanda kayo, at
He who stands with
napagpaplanuhan
me
nyo
shall
ng
be my
mabuti.
brother.
So there you go. You have the 5
How can I
common
serve?
mistakes importers
I will leave you
should
to
not
knowledge is power.
make.
Hide
For
it
the complete
well. My
version of
knowledge is
what
at
we
your
had just
disposal.
discussed, please visit
What
the
are your
column
needs?
of Attorney Agaton
What are
Uvero.
your needs?
If you liked our video, subscribe to
Direct me
our
to the
YouTube
injured.
channel, and we hope to see you in our next
I am
video.
prepared.
Bye-bye.
Squad embarking.
I am ready to pass judgment.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Port Calls YouTube channel. We'd like to share with you a webinar on leading a winning sales team. This portion talks about 10 unique perspectives of a great leader. Here it is.
Fear not the psycho.
There are 10 unique perspectives on what makes a great leader, and let's go through them one by one. So, have faith in their beliefs. Believe in yourself and
What
your
are your
ideas.
needs?
Okay? Of course, you will agree. This is self-explanatory. If you do
I
not
am
believe
prepared.
in yourself, then how do you expect others
My
to believe in you?
faith is my
Okay?
shield.
But
How
we
can
have
I
bosses.
serve?
We have directions from CEOs, and you're going to hear me repeat this several times in the 2 hours and a half that we're going to be together. Why? Because I cannot stress it enough. I cannot stress enough that whatever the
Yes.
vision of the company is, whatever the vision of your boss is, you have to get married to that. Okay? Because then you're not going to be authentic. You're not going to be, there's no integrity once you talk to your people already. If you're coming from, sabi to ni boss eto dapat
My
eh
faith
wala
is
tayong
my
magagawa.
shield. No such thing as
Wala ka
innocence.
palang magagawa
Only
eh. Bakit
degrees
hindi
of
mo na lang
guilt.
sarilihin at why don't you just own what is that you're saying na
I
wala kang
stand
magagawa?
ready.
Because you cannot keep going to an office with that kind of mindset. Lalo na kung magagawa, di bahala na, di susunod ako, nakakainis naman
Scouts
to.
ready. We will move ahead
Leaders.
and mark any enemy
Kaya nga
positions.
kanina nung tinanong ko kayo, ano ba ang challenges? Yung pang-apat na challenge para sa akin, minsan tayo. Kasi tayo, may pagkukulang tayo. At natural lang yun.
Walk softly
Wala tayong pagkukulang,
and
we're not
carry
made
a
of
big
flesh.
gun.
Diba? Kaya nga tayo nandito kasi
I
marami
shall not
tayong
fail.
pagkukulang. Pero ito rin
Yes.
mismong pagkukulang at kahinaan natin ang rason kung bakit tayo gumagaling. Okay? So, first, let's not fool ourselves. Believe in yourself,
My
believe
knowledge
in
is
your
at your
company,
disposal.
believe in your
Stand
mission,
before
and
the Inquisition.
if you don't, there is no way you will be able to attain your goals anywhere. Next, make the hard choice. Ano sinasabi dito? Serving others entails great sacrifice. Oo naman, di ba? Para sa inyong may mga pamilya, may mga anak, may mga asawa, may mga nanay, may mga tatay, and we're serving people everywhere. Every time I give training, I like to relate
stand
also to
ready.
personal lives. You know why? Because the formula is the same. However you lead your office is the way
I
you're
am
going to
ready
lead
to
your
pass
family.
judgment.
Okay? We don't have to invent anything. Okay? It's the same. It's the same. Kaya nga you are the same person anywhere you go. At least to me, I'd like to believe that and I'd like to be able to share that mantra with you. Okay? Sa bahay pa lang, you're making already hard decisions. Saan mag-aaral ang anak ko? Lilipat ba tayo? Wala na tayong pangbayad? Mga ganyan. Okay? Sa opisina lalo na. Now, when I was first confronted with this, number 2, make the hard choice. What is it to me? I am reminded of hierarchy of priorities. When you say hierarchy of priorities, my God, nandiyan ka, you're the head. May pamilya, may opisina, may country. Bahala ka. You line up the hierarchy of priorities. Okay, and one becomes morally sufficient when foundations are laid for a person to achieve goals. Faster, quicker, in the best way she can. Okay, what am I trying to say? Ano gusto mo sabihin, Mariel? Hindi ko maintindihan. Ito, ganito.
Taking damage.
Kunyari, merong 1,000 ka na nakita sa table, no? Ng kaopisina mo, ay may 1,000. Siguro ikaw, kawawa naman to. Kanino ba itong 1,000 na to? Ann, sa'yo ba to? O Len, sa'yo ba to? O John, sa'yo ba to? Ganyan. Gusto mong hanapin kung kanino yon. Kasi di ba, hindi mo siya kailangan. Hindi mo siya kailangan. At saka naaawa ka kung sino yung may-ari ng 1,000, gusto mong hanapin kung sino yung may-ari. Okay? Pero ako, hindi ako mayaman. Hindi ako mayaman. Wala akong ulam mamayang gabi. Wala akong ulam mamayang gabi, baka kunin ko yun. Baka kunin ko yun at ipangbili ko ng ulam. Okay? Ngayon, kung honest ako, alam ko naman kung sino may-ari nun, si Mariel eh. Baka lapitan ko siya, Mariel, yung 800 kasi wala kasi akong pang-ulam mamaya sa bahay namin. Ginamit ko to, pero ito 200. Babayaran na lang kita. Okay, what am I trying to say here? Yung hierarchy of priorities, let us lay the foundations
On
to
alert,
our
brothers.
people in
The enemy
order
must
for
be
them to be
nearby.
able to be morally sufficient baga, di ba? That it will be easier or
Scouts are
faster
waiting
for them to
orders.
do what they need to do because you are laying the
Scouts
foundations for
advance.
them to be able to achieve their goals. Okay, and
Scouts
that's what
ready.
and sometimes
Scouts
it entails
advance.
great sacrifice.
Accomplished.
Number 3, earn the respect of the
Scouts
team.
awaiting
Okay.
orders.
Minsan siguro naiisip natin, ako naman ang presidente. Natural,
Scouts
respetuhin
advance.
ako niyan. Do you like that you're respected because of your position?
Commencing
Or do you
infiltration.
do you like that you are respected because of your person? That regardless of whether you are the
This day
president
shall be a
of the
glorious
company,
one
but you
for
are
the
not
Imperium.
respectable, you cannot expect your people to respect you. In the same token, you are the person in charge of cleaning the whole office, but you are so respectable. Even if that is your job, people are going to respect you. In other words, respect is not commanded by your position. Respect is commanded by your nature, your person, you. Okay? And in case there's a little bit of difficulty and there are some changes that we will need to tweak with our personality kasi gano'n naman talaga. Di ba? Merong taong introvert, merong taong extrovert. Hindi masama na introverted ka. Hindi masama na tahimik ka. At lalong hindi masama that you want the distance from you and your employees. Because there's also such a thing as professionalism. Diba? Earning respect, paano ba yan, Mariel? Earning respect, so kailangan makikipagkwentuhan ako sa kanila? Of course not. No, kailangan alam ko kung 5 anak, hiwalay sa asawa? Of course not. No, that's not what I'm trying to say here. Because as bosses, you have that position and you have to know how to be professional to your subordinates, right? But that doesn't take away you being friendly. That doesn't take away you creating an environment that is healthy and conducive for them to keep chasing their sales goals. Okay, and how do you do that? Okay, you listen to them. When you are in meetings,
my lord.
diba, marami
Getting
tayo.
into position.
Every week may huddle tayo or you have huddles with your sales teams and you're there. Diba? Siyempre, parang you're there
Scouts in
cascading the
position.
direction, the vision of the company. We're supposed to do this, that. That's fine and that's your role. But after that, try to be a little bit more personal to them without getting try to be a little bit personal
Gathering
without getting
intelligence.
into their personal lives. That's not necessary. Okay? But, kamusta ba kayo? Ano ba dapat ang mga pinag-uusapan natin na malimit na hindi naman natin pinag-uusapan? O, kamusta ba ang trabaho? Kayo ba okay ba kayo? You can go a little bit there. Okay? Because that's going to ease the tension. And if you're already talking in that way and you're still talking about work, that's good and that's okay, right? But try not to interrupt. Okay, so for instance, you have 10 sales agents in your group, okay? Let them talk. Pakita mo sa kanila na hindi ka nagsasalita. Bakit? Kasi ina-absorb mo yung sinasabi nila.
Yes, my lord.
Di ba? Para ma-summarize mo. Para alam mo kung anong
I sense
sasabihin mong
danger.
ending. Kasi
We will
syempre,
root it
bottom
out.
line, ikaw ang ending.
Scouts advance.
Oh, I really like your suggestion. You know, I think
Gathering
this one,
intelligence.
maybe not now, maybe we will try it next year, 2023, kasi alam mo kung
Yes, my
bakit
lord.
yung budget natin medyo ganito lang. Pero ang ganda ng idea mo. Diba? Hindi, yung pagbabaril ng idea, may art yan.
Yes, most
May art,
beneficent
pero hindi
one.
mo sila binobola. Okay? So yon. I came across TED Talks that was talking about 3 qualities of a leader, and I'd like to be able to share this with you because I think if we practice
What
it,
would you have us
respect
do?
is going to be identical. Okay? Sabi, number 1, you have to be hungry. Okay? Di ba when we're in a meeting, dapat ganito, dapat ganyan, di ba? Kailangan gawin natin to. You're supposed to be able to do sales calls. Wala kayo dapat dito. You're supposed to be out of the office Monday to Friday. Ang dami nating mando, so to speak, right? But if I am your sales agent and I see my boss doing exactly what he is saying, so hungry for the work, no time complaining, I'm going to tell myself, naiya ka naman sa sarili mo.
Here to serve. Build routine
People, your agents, you have to be the first people, the people in your company. I understand that not all of you are coming from sales, okay? But like I said, you adapt according to your system, according to where you are. If you're in HR, there are people in accounting, okay? We will talk more about learning the functions of other departments, okay, very soon. So, yun, ganon. Kailangan, ikaw mismo hungry ka. Para bang ikaw yung CEO. Hindi naman ikaw yung CEO, di ba? Ikaw yung manager, ikaw yung business development manager. And what I'm saying is that there's mancom above you, or perhaps you are part of the mancom. But all I'm saying is that if I am your subordinate, I have to feel you're very hungry for work. And to complain is not your default. Why do I say to complain is not the default? Because I hear a lot of people that complaining is their default. Ang bihira naman. Sa 10 na lang nga kami. Ako pa bang gagawa niya? Di ba? Dapat mapakita natin sa kanila na dapat masaya sila, nagagawin niya yun. Yung ginagawa dapat ng ika-10 tao, there's always a way to lighten things up, to make them realize, teka muna, kakain ba ang pamilya mo? Kakain ba ang pamilya mo sa kaka-complain mo? Diba? Mapapareho tayong masusuya sa isa't isa, either magre-resign ka or baka mapaalis kita. Diba? So you have to make your people realize that your personal goals is so linked to the goals of the company. Because if not for the company, you will not be able to support your family. And having that thought rest in your mind even while you're sleeping, why wouldn't you want to work? When you need your company to feed your family, as blunt as that. But it is what it is. Because I think if you try to go back to that purpose, you will realize na, can I shut up? Can I just try not to complain? But you have to be the first one to say that. Because I know of leaders, and I heard leaders in my past work, right? That, kasi matanda na rin naman ako, di ba? Ito guys, ito, kailangan daw to ha. Wala eh. Sabi yan ni boss eh. O di lang tayo naiinis. Naiinis yung head, sabi ni boss. Lahat tayo naiinis. Pero kung ikaw, you're married, your goals, your personal goals are married and linked to the goals of the company. Guys, sabi to ni boss, alam niyo ba kung bakit? Ganito kasi yan. Okay? And if you're it gets pulled up, di ba ikaw din? Right? So, ganun yun. Di ba? Tuhog kayo. You cannot be broken down. You're one. Okay? So number 1, quality of a leader. You have to be hungry for your work. You yourself and your people will have to see that in order for us to be motivated. Second, you have to have EQ. Diba? EQ. Kailangan may puso. Kailangan intindihin mo. May nagko-complain. Okay? Sasabihin mo ba, pabihira ka naman, huwag ka na mag-complain. Buti nga, sabi nga doon sa webinar, buti nga, meron tayong sahod. Kung wala tayong sahod, hindi natin napakain yung pamilya natin. Is that the way you're going to say it? That you were told in the webinar na kailangan magpasalamat tayo? Diba? Siyempre, iintindihin mo yung nagko-complain. Siguro dapat tawagin mo. Siguro kung may kape kayo sa office, pwede mo sabihin, Mariel, I'd like to invite you, let's have coffee, let's go inside the conference room, tara, let's talk. Kasi napapansin ko parang nahihirapan ka. Diba? Ganon. Kailangan may EQ, hindi yung parang, ay, nakasumunod kayo, boss ako. No, it can't be that way. Right? And then, you have to be humble. Okay? Humility, it's very difficult to be humble, right? Because we are in this position because we already know so much. We have so much experience in years and in the exact work that we've been doing, right? But here comes a millennial. Woo! Parang bagyo, ang daming ideas. Tanggapin mo. Tanggapin mo kasi nag-e-evolve. Okay? So you cannot say, alam mo naman kung sino to, kakagraduate lang 2 years ago. Hindi. Diba? You have to open. Remember, the biggest asset of a leader is to be able to open your eyes to all possibilities. To all possibilities. You are the embodiment. Sales leaders. A sales leader is the embodiment of that sales function in an organization. And your main job is to bring in revenue in the company. Otherwise, your company will close down.
None can stand before
diba? Ganun katindi yung responsibility natin. Diba? And like I said, ang leader, ang quality ng isang leader is marunong mag-alaga. You have to care. You have to have that empathy. Diba? Kailangan batiin mo ang team mo. Kasi pag hindi, they're just going to talk behind your back. Are you going to condone bad behavior? Of course not. Ikaw ba pag may anak ka, iniintindi mo, pagka may ginawang mali, iko-condone mo? Hindi. O di ganun din sa opisina. You have to be able to correct your people. But the manner of correcting is what you have to take care of. Okay? So, ganun lang. Ganun. Kaya ko pinipilit na you have to be able to care. Okay? There. So, 3 qualities of a leader. You have to be hungry. You're the first one hungry for your work and there's no room for complaint. You have to have EQ. Understand your people. And number 3, you have to be humble. Okay, you have to be humble. Tumatanda na tayo, umiikot ang gulong. Okay? So, we have to be open. Next, know your team. Okay? Know your team. The greatest asset of any leader, even if you're not in the function of sales. I'm the HR director. I'm the HR manager. I'm looking at my HR supervisor who is a little bit inefficient. I see that. What am I going to do to turn this ordinary or pag minalas pa, medyo a bit inefficient HR supervisor or staff into an extraordinary HR staff? How am I going to do that? You'll be able to do that when you know your team and you know their strengths and their weaknesses. And if you're able to turn their weaknesses into strengths, wow, ang galing mo lang. Okay, that's very good. Okay, now I had an encounter once with a pharmaceutical company many years ago, and I had an engagement with them. And I was talking to the CEO, right? And we were talking about how they were doing sales. And I was interviewing him, right, for a training program. I was interviewing him. And then I said, what sort of evolutions or changes have you done with your sales team? And this I'd like to share with you, okay? In line with opening, having all options and having possibilities, all sorts of possibilities. Okay, he goes, I used to have two salesmen who were not delivering. Okay, hindi makabenta. Okay, you know that when you're in a pharmaceutical company, a drug company, so you have what do you call them, med reps, right? So they have different teams for every brand group. Okay, so my sales leader and then my agents siya. I have two sales agents. I have two med reps who are not really putting in revenue, zero revenue. Okay, and then I tried to study them. There was a girl. She was very beautiful. Okay, and perhaps the doctors had a good time, had a great time every time she came in to present because 100% sa rapport. Pati ako nakakalimutan ko that I still have patience to if I'm the doctor, I still have patience to entertain. But this girl, this med rep, this sales agent is just so good at rapport building that I am so entertained. But when it would come to the product knowledge, oh my, she couldn't explain anything. So in the end, I won't also buy from her. No, I was just entertained for 15 minutes with all of her stories, very animated. But that's it. I'll say, okay, bye-bye. Leave the proposal there and I'll study the medicines after. I'll study your products after. But the doctors never end up buying from her. Then there's another one. He was a male, right? He was a male who had zero rapport building for a sales agent, right? Zero rapport building. Wala. He was very dry. He'd say good morning and then he'd proceed with the products. But somehow the doctors would realize that, oh my goodness, he can be a doctor. Like he knows everything that goes into the medicine, and there are even facts I don't know that he knows. But he is just so boring that every time he comes, I would also tell my secretary na kung andyan na si Pogi, sabihin mo, iwan na lang yung proposal. Sige, pareho rin as babasahin ko di ba? Bahala na. And then the CEO of this drug company was saying, oh my goodness, but they never brought in sales. Right? They never brought in sales. So what I did, so that CEO was saying, no, what I did was that I combined the two. Even if all the agents, even if the protocol in the company was for one agent to visit certain companies, right? Because that's the way it is. Di naman kailangan may kasama ka pa unless newbie ka, right? But these two were not newbies. They are supposed to know what they're doing. They went together. Okay, the manager was saying, okay, this is what I'm going to do. Okay, I'm just going to risk it. I'm going to make these two go together. Okay, so they went together. While Miss Rapport was like, woo, di ba? Like bagyon, ang saya-saya. And then when it came to the product knowledge, the doctors would also, yeah, okay lang, di ba? Kasi ang talino, alam lahat ng tanong ng questions na sasagot. Ganyan. And they brought in sales. They brought in sales because of the tandem. And then the CEO had a problem. Pambihira naman. Kasi dapat ito ginagawa lang ng isang tao, pero dalawa sila ng dalawa. But sa kaka-practice nila, sa kakagawa nila ng ganon, ang naging ending, yung weakness sila naging strength.
Yes, most beneficent one.
Okay? So in the end, that pretty beautiful Miss Rapport girl learned her product knowledge because of the exposure to that one who was genius in the product knowledge. And this product knowledge dude learned rapport building from the beautiful lady. And in the end, the CEO and the company was very happy because both these salesmen were putting in a lot of revenue. You see? And but you so okay, as leaders, I go back to as leaders. Do we know exactly that? Do we know the strengths and weaknesses of our agents? Do we know how they think? Do we know their limitations? Okay, because to the detail of that, you're supposed to be able to pinpoint. How am I going to help this one? How am I going to help this one? Why? Because their sales is your sales. Diba? You have a quota for your team. So the more they work and the higher they go, and when they reach their quota, who reaches the quota? Either you reach the quota. So there I go again. You have to be the nanay or the tatay for the team, helping them. Okay, now,
Faith is eternal.
after you know your team members, you
am
have
the
to know the
instrument of his
functions
will.
of everyone in the
It is
company.
better to die
That's
for
why
the
shout out to
emperor
those who are
than
not in the
for
sales
himself.
department here. We have from
It
accounting,
is better
we
to
have
die
from
for the emperor than
operations,
live for
we have
yourself.
business
None
development,
can
we have
stand
customer
before the
service,
Inquisition.
and
The fallen shall be forever
operations.
remembered
O, nasabi
as the
ko na.
emperor's
Thank you.
finest.
You
Today
know why?
the enemy shall know fear.
Even if you are not salespeople, you're supposed to know the function
I shall
of
not fail.
salespeople.
What
If
are
you
your
are
needs?
leaders or soon to be leaders.
No
And
search
if
for
you
the
are
emperor shall
salespeople,
find what I
hindi
can
lang
do.
tayo
Praise
taga-book,
the emperor.
hindi lang
No
tayo
servant
taga-book,
to the
hindi lang
emperor
tayo
shall
taga-negotiate,
fall if
hindi lang
I
tayo
can
taga-kuha. You're
I follow
supposed
your
to know
commands.
the function of
Praise the
everybody
emperor.
per department
What
because
are your
you are a
needs?
production line. Okay,
No
good. Nakuha ko
servant
na
to
tong
the
shipping
emperor
line na to.
shall fall if I
CSR,
can
bahala
do
ka na.
Direct me to
Sabi,
the
pambihira,
injured.
sales ako. I'm on to the next, I'm on to the next, I'm on to the next. I'm chasing clients. Well, I have good news for you. Apart from chasing your
How can I
clients,
serve?
you will have to be able to
Praise the
monitor
emperor.
what's going on. Especially that your company has limitations, business processes, supply chain visibility. It's not that great yet. No, I understand that there's no tool or system that when you're able to monitor or track the shipment, or you're all just looking at email threads. And are you going to leave that job to the
I
operations
have
and
a book.
CSR and accounting?
Direct me to the injured.
Yes and no. Yes, because
Death
they're supposed to
or
do that,
healing,
but
I care
no,
not
because
which
you're
you
supposed to be
seek.
on top of that. And if I may suggest, you have to know
Apothecary here.
the exact thing that's happening with CSR, with accounting, with operations. So much so that if I am your client and I call you, hey
I
Mariel,
will crush
tinawagan ako ng
the
operations
enemy
nyo.
beneath my boot.
Ano tong
faith
Form
is my
123?
shield.
Nafilapan ko naman to ah. Bakit ganito? Bakit ang dami-daming hinihingi sa import, sa export? Dati-dati naman, basta lagay ko lang dyan cloth. Hindi na kailangan sabihin dyan teteron or linen or ganyan. Tapos ang quantity, ang value, hindi nagmamatch. So anong gagawin ko dito sa Form 123? Invento ko lang yon mga kaibigan. All I'm saying is, whatever is happening per department, you're supposed to know. Form 123, ganito lang yan. Okay, Mariel, can I get back to you in 5 minutes and I'll teach you how to fill up the form.
Here to
Okay?
serve.
Do not anymore burden operations. Right? Perhaps operations made a mistake. Tao lang tayo, di ba? Remember, operations is taking care of every client that you booked. Every client that you closed. Now, cannot you go an extra mile and take care of that client after all that client is yours and your business is not done until even after
Build
sales?
routine 721 initiated.
After you close a sale, that's not done. You have to make sure that the shipment arrived. Right? That it's not damaged. Oh, tatawag ka pa sa cargo insurance, sasabihin pa sa'yo ng cargo insurance, ano ba naman yan? Damage na naman. Diba? Sometimes that's the kind of comment that we get. How are you going to deal with that cargo insurance? A third party, hindi na taga-inyo yun. So you see, just like a mother or a father, no? All of you sales leaders, you have to tell your sales agents that it's not enough that you are able to close and you are able to book. You have to know the functions of each one, and so that anytime anybody goes back to you, you know exactly what happened in that stop. Oh, pambira naman, Mariel, pambira naman tong accounting nyo, mali-mali naman ang invoice number. Ano ba naman yan?
On patrol.
Ay, pasensya ka na. Kasi hindi na ako yan eh. Accounting yan eh. Is that the way to answer your client? Oh, thank you for letting me know. I'm going to ask Christy what happened. Okay? Yes, Christy was talking to you. Christy is in charge of accounting. I'm going to get back to you in 10 minutes. And then you go to accounting. Christy, pambihira ka naman. Napahiya ako. Ano ba naman yan? Bakit naman mali-mali yung invoice? Ganun ba?
I stand
Or,
ready.
Christy, may tumawag na tumawag sa akin yung kliyente ko, ABC Corporation. Ano nangyari dito? Kasi yata yung invoice, mali yung number na ko next time ha. Kasi nagdi-delay, hindi tuloy makabayad. O sige, uulitin natin. Ganun lang. Ganun, di ba? Coordination, kailangan ang unang-una mong customer. Hindi pwede yung, hindi ka masungit sa external customer. Yes, ma'am, I'll get back to you in 10 minutes. Pag punta mo sa internal customer, inis ka na. Christy, ano ba naman yan? Araw-araw mo yung ginagawa, mali na naman yung invoice number.
While the
Right?
enemies of the
If you
emperor
can
still draw
smile,
breath, there
if you
be
can
no
be
peace.
nice to your external
Yes,
customer,
most
you have to be
beneficent
doubly nice to your internal customer. Because your
Yes,
internal
most
customers, you and your
beneficent
internal
one,
customers
I shall obey.
need each other. Right? The
Gathering
output of one
intelligence.
department
I
is the
sense
input
danger.
of another.
We will root it out.
Alright,
Scouts
so,
ready. Gathering
After knowing
intelligence.
your team, their individual
carry a mind
weaknesses
of
and
knowledge at
strengths,
your
you have to know
Scouts in
everybody in the company. Hindi pwede yung, alam ko to, no? Because I've trained several companies
Yes, my
already,
lord.
and takot
How
sila
can
sa
I
mga
serve?
sales. Diba? Kasi ang mga sales is parang, nakakatakot yan. Yan ang nagbibigay ng revenue. Diba? Alam naman nila na kayong nagbibigay ng revenue. Pero hindi naman yun para mando-mandohan lang sila. Diba? Kailangan nakaalalay ka. Kasi that's not going to
Yes,
commence.
most
Hindi matatapos
beneficent
yung sale mo pag merong nainis. And maaring natansak mo beginning to end.
I
Ang
await
tanong,
your
babalik ba?
instructions.
Next.
Taking hits.
Articulate
I
a
am
clear
prepared.
vision.
I
Yan
will
na. This is
crush the
like I
enemy
told you
beneath
earlier,
my
and I cannot
boots.
stress it enough. Whatever the vision of the company, cascaded
The fallen shall
as
be forever
leaders,
remembered
all of you,
as the
even in the
Emperor's
different
finest.
functions,
How
you
can I
have to
serve?
get married to
Fear
that
not the
because
sight.
you're not. How can you
Walk
stay in your
softly
function if
and
you're
carry
not
a big
married to the
gun.
vision of the company? And how will you be able to articulate that if you do not so believe
For
it?
terror.
If it is so not in
Yes,
your
it
heart,
will
you
be
will
done.
not be able to
What are your
cascade and
needs?
articulate that vision.
follow
It has to
your
be very
command.
clear.
How can I
You
serve?
have a direction. You have to
Apothecary
occupy
here.
15% market share. How am I going to do
Ever
that? Do I
vigilant.
even know the actual
Cleanse,
value of the company right
purge,
now?
Yes,
my
How do I
lord.
get to 15% market
Scouts
share?
advance.
What happened in the last 5 years?
fallen
What
shall
happened in
be
the last 1
forever
year?
remembered as the
Emperor's
Okay,
finest.
in
The
order
enemy
to be able
must
to
be
reach
nearby.
that, how closely
The
am I
fallen shall
monitoring
be
KPIs of
forever
my people?
remembered as the Emperor's finest.
How
state.
fast are we getting
Ever
bookings over a
vigilant.
period of time? Two of you
My
shared
knowledge is at
earlier
your
the
disposal.
challenge
Where
in
detect
time.
What is it you desire?
Dagdagan ko
What
lang yung
would you
challenge
have me
in
do?
time, ha? Dadagdagan ko yun ng time
The battlefield awaits.
management. I said earlier when we talked about the challenges,
Stay vigilant,
a good leader
brothers.
is supposed to be able to compensate for whatever is lacking. Okay, for whatever is lacking. However way, ask yourself, did I maximize that compensating whatever the company lacks? Okay, so as far detail as does the company have limitations? I'm trying to court this client. Di ba, pag ang sales nang niligaw tayo, nililigawan ko tong kumpanya na to, naku, may history pala yung kumpanya natin sa kumpanya na yan. I'm not supposed to be negotiating with them. But you're wasting your time. You were making legal for 2 months. You did not know that you're not supposed to be making legal
Yes,
with that
ma'am.
company because your company had a history with that company. Okay? I mean, that's not a very positive story. All my point is, go as the farthest detail as you can go when you are doing your plan. And so that when you are asked by your subordinates and by your agents,
Here to
its
serve.
articulation of that clear vision is crystal clear. Wala kang
Building
makakalimutan.
721 initiated.
Push people to be
With
their
all due
best.
haste.
Di ba nakakatawa naman kung ang standards ng subordinates natin mas mataas pa sa standards natin.
to serve.
Di ba nakakatawa yon? So, whatever it is that we're telling people, you have to be the first one to say this.
crush
Okay?
me.
If you want your people to be in the office by 8 o'clock, you have to be there by 8 o'clock. If you cannot be there by 8 o'clock, there has to be a reason. And you will just have to explain it. Kasi gano'n naman talaga yun. It is your right. It is your right. Okay? All you have to do is, guys, you have to be here by 8 o'clock, but I am here by 10, I'm here by 11, because this is what happens. This is what happens in my other office. This is what happens in... Oh, they just need to know.
On alert,
But it cannot be na parang do
The
this, do
enemy
this,
must
do
be
this, do this,
nearby.
and you're there.
I
Oh,
follow
pero
your
si boss,
commands.
lakad-lakad lang. O si boss, 2 times a week lang andito. 2 times a week ka nasa
Scouts
opisina, hindi ka nagpapakita, and you
At
expect your
least
people
we
to do
know
the
that
job
the
you're
orcs
telling
and
them to do.
Eldar are not
They
in
probably have
together.
higher standards than
When
you.
one enemy
So there's
attacks
something wrong
another,
there.
it does
Getting
not
into
mean
position.
they
Oh,
aren't in
15 pa lang eh. Okay na
Just
ako sa
that they are
quota ko.
living up to their lack of honor. And
punta
those
kami sa
who lack
Boracay, mag-leave
honor
muna ako.
deserve
Hindi
death.
ganun.
Beware
Remember
the
we talked about
enemy.
challenges earlier? Diba? And you never know. The fluctuation in the market is crazy, right?
On alert,
Now there's
brothers.
monkeypox.
The
And
enemy
it's
must
knock
be
on wood. I
nearby.
hope it's not going to be
Faith
another
and duty.
COVID experience, right? We're just trying, we're just beginning again.
Yes.
Okay, so, pero, ano naman, May 15 naman, okay na ako eh.
I am
Hindi mo alam kung ano
prepared.
mangyayari sa May 30, sa April
The
15.
Emperor
Bakit hindi
protects.
kaya kumayod ka para may pondo ka?
What are your needs?
That's how it's supposed to be. And the
On
people in
alert,
sales
brothers.
cannot
The
slack.
enemy must be nearby.
Diba? Baka mamaya wala nang ipasweldo ang
Yes,
kumpanya.
back to war.
Okay, so remember that whatever it is you're trying to tell your team, you're the first
Faith
one
is
to
our
do that.
shield.
Yes, my lord.
Number 8, unique perspective of
At
being a
your
great leader.
command,
Baka sa
getting
dami ng
into
story
position.
ako. Nakalimutan nyo na. Ano ba tong number 1, number 2, number 3? These are
Yes,
unique
most
perspectives in,
beneficent one.
to make a great leader. And the source where I got it from is there in the first slide. You can check it out. Okay? But this is my interpretation of all of these suggestions of unique perspectives of how one can become a great leader. Serve a greater cause.
Fire in the hole!
Natural, hindi na to para sa akin. Ulitin ko na naman. Siguro for the 4th time. 4th time pa lang naman eh.
Faith is
Your
our
personal
shield.
goals
Weapons
will have to
at
get
ready.
married
It is
to the
time.
goals of the company. Dikit-dikit tayo. Hindi na to para sa akin. Okay? Okay lang yan. Ito naman, ito bagong panganak yung sales agent ko. Ito, ganyan. Ito, mahirap lang. Ito,
Yes,
ganyan.
my lord.
Okay, magtulong-tulong tayo dahil
Onward
kailangan
to
natin ng isa't
glory.
isa. It's ready for a greater cause. And that's why a
We
leader
stand
has
ready.
a lot of sacrifices. I'm sacrificing. I'm
Yes, my
trying to
lord.
turn this person into
We
from
are
an
the Emperor's
ordinary
chosen.
sales rep to an extraordinary sales rep, that she is not only
Orders
good in rapport
received,
building,
brother.
but she finally memorized
Understood.
product knowledge.
There
Diba?
is no such thing as
It's already for a greater cause. And when I'm able to do that, I'm able to help a soul. And because I'm able to help a soul bring
Yes,
in more
Lord.
revenue, I'm able to help my beloved company. And because of that, I got an increase,
Yes,
and my
Lord.
commissions is so great
I
that, oh
exist to
my,
serve.
we can finally have a vacation.
Yes, most
Lahat ng hirap
beneficent
mo,
one.
lahat ng trabaho mo
shall
for that
obey.
greater cause ay ang balik sa'yo.
Defending objective.
Everything good that you do will go back to you. And of course, the opposite is you already know.
Yes, Lord.
Focus on helping the team.
I will
Okay?
do
So,
as you
self-explanatory,
ask.
you all have to work in a coordinated goal. Wala dyan sa, not anyone from your lateral or your subordinate is saying, bira naman to. Sige na nga, wala naman tayong
We will
choice.
root it out.
I am
I love to
prepared.
say this and share this in my training. When somebody says, Miss Maria, wala naman kaming choice eh. Wala ka palang choice, bakit hindi mo gawing choice? Bakit hindi mo sabihin sa sarili mo,
Establishing a
wala pala akong
secondary
choice, hindi
base
pala
near
kami
this
kakain.
location will
Well,
give us a forward position with which to engage the enemy.
Gathering intelligence.
kailangan lang,
Heresy
lawakan
grows
mo ang
from
pag-iisip mo kasi alam mo,
Stay
yung pagiging
vigilant,
masaya,
brother,
nasa
your
sa atin
needs.
lang yan.
Faith.
Kaya tayo malungkot, o kaya tayo depressed, o baka kung saan
On
mapunta
alert,
yung
brothers.
usapan natin. But
The enemy
it's just,
must be
it's
nearby.
all coming from us. So if we're going to say, I'm going to hit that, I'm going to believe my CEO, I believe, I
Yes,
trust
Lord.
my manager, and I trust myself, therefore together we have a
Routine 7 to
coordinated
1
goal, this is going to be
initiated.
good. There's no way it's going to falter. You will make mistakes, but you have to embrace mistakes. Because you would not have been there where you are now if you did not commit all those mistakes. And guess what? Until we are talking, alive and breathing, we will make mistakes. And that only means
Initializing
there's
build
still room to get
protocol.
wiser for all of us. And last, do not lead by force. Motivate your team, lead by
Onward
example.
to glory.
I've been asked a lot in my mentoring groups, I've been asked a lot, paano ka ba nagko-correct? Paano mo sasabihin sa isang tao, nakakainis, hindi dapat ganito, hindi dapat ganyan, pambihira naman. Ilang beses ko na tinuro. Ay, ganon. Actually, most of the time, hindi na ako nagsasayang ng saliva. Tumahimik ka lang.
Yes, my lord.
At titignan
Yes,
ka lang
my
ng
lord.
tao. On time. Tick. Ang ayos.
There is no such
When I
thing
say ang ayos ng
Scouts
itsura, ang
in
ayos ng
positions
laptop,
of
ang ayos ng lamesa,
Yes, my
ang
lord.
ayos ng
Yes, my lord. I
ang
sense
tinukausap.
danger. We will
The
root it out.
battlefield
Yung
awaits.
sinabi,
power.
ginagawa.
Hide it well.
Sa palagay mo ba, kailangan mo pa mag-correct? Kahit hindi mo nabukas yung bibig mo, titignan ka lang nila. And everyone is going to perhaps fix their table, talk with finesse, perhaps with refinement, I don't know. But that's what leading by example means. So sometimes you don't even have to worry, pambihira naman to, how can I correct this person?
I am ready
Okay,
to
what do you
serve.
want that person to do?
Again.
Do it.
I
And
am
you're
ready
going to
to
be followed.
pass judgment. There is no such thing as innocence.
The
Only
battlefield
degrees of
awaits.
guilt.
Hi everyone!
Here
There
to
was a
serve.
recent webinar which Board
Taking
Calls helped
damage.
conduct for the Chamber of Customs Brokers Incorporated. This webinar on seizure and forfeiture proceedings and appeals process reoriented customs brokers on the seizure and forfeiture proceedings and appeals process, and they were made aware of the effects on the non-compliance of
Knowledge
the
is power.
seizure and forfeiture
I am ready to
regulations.
serve.
Here it is.
Again. Apothecary here.
Our topic for today is
What is it you desire? It will be done.
seizure and
None
forfeiture
can stand
proceedings and
before the
appeals
What is it you
process.
desire?
I
It
believe
will be done.
that you are
Even in
familiar
death,
on
I still
this
serve.
topic because
I will
you are
prove
all
the queen
licensed
at your
customs
command.
brokers
On
here.
patrol. Getting into
However,
position.
there are details often overlooked, and these details
How can I serve?
lead
Apothecary
to
here.
disaster, and this disaster is very costly on the part of the owner or the importer
Scouts here. Gathering
when his
intelligence.
goods are
Scouts
being
advance.
subjected to seizure and forfeiture
The
proceedings.
battlefield awaits.
Imagine how many days his goods are being
My
held
faith is my
by the
shield.
Bureau of Customs
Confirmed.
because of these legal proceedings. So storage, demurrage,
Yes, my
and
lord.
other charges are accumulating daily until such
Even
time
in death, I
that
still
the
serve.
goods are being allowed to be released by the Bureau of Customs if such is the case. Pero hindi sa lahat ng pagkakataon ay nai-release yung kargamento that were being subjected in forfeiture proceedings. And sad to say, oftentimes, the goods being subjected to seizure and forfeiture proceedings are
Scouts here.
being
Fall back!
forfeited by the Bureau of Customs.
Scouts advance.
That's my experience when I was the chief at the Law Division MICP.
Apothecary
Mas
here.
marami yung
Orders
napo-forfeit.
received.
Pag hindi siya
This
na-forfeit
day shall be a
and
glorious one
the
for the
goods are
Imperial.
allowed to be released,
Faith and duty.
most of the time
Follow
nagbabayad
my
yan
lead.
ng fine
To the
or
rally point!
redemption value. Yun yung masaklap na katotohanan. So,
Yes, my lord.
listen, because
Search
what I will
commencing.
be
Search
lecturing is
commencing.
very important, not only because you will be earning your CPD credits, but also you will be encountering this in the Bureau of Customs.
What is your order?
Importante ito
Ever vigilant.
because
Onward to glory.
there are
Stay vigilant, brothers.
details oftentimes overlooked. As for example,
Apothecary here.
the period to file the pleadings, the period to appeal, what are the remedies available.
The battlefield
Dapat alam nyo
awaits.
ito
Reach.
para pagka na-encounter nyo ito sa practice nyo sa pagiging customs broker nyo, mapipili nyo yung pinakamagandang remedy para yung pinakamaliit na cost na magagastos ng inyong mga kliyente or the owners or the importers of
Apothecary
the
here.
goods.
Scouts here.
So
What
in
are
this
your needs?
in this presentation, I
Scouts
will
in
be
position.
discussing
Scouts advance.
what are the reasons why importations or exportations are being seized by the Bureau of Customs. What are the remedies
I await your instructions.
when the goods are being recommended for seizure?
I will do as
What
you
are
ask.
the remedies when there has already been a WSD issued
Yes, my lord.
by the district
Commencing
collector?
infiltration.
What are the remedies during forfeiture
not the
proceedings?
Scouts reporting for duty.
Remedies when the goods are eventually
Praise the
forfeited by
Emperor.
the district collector. Before delving
Today
into the
the enemy
discussion
shall know
proper,
fear.
let us first take a look at some of the definitions of what we will be studying.
Here to serve.
What is seizure? What is forfeiture?
Initializing build protocol.
What is an appeal? These terms have technical definitions
Build
under
routine
our
7 to
rules.
1 initiated.
Next slide, please. So, what is seizure?
So the good
Seizure
Inquisitor
is
senses no
the actual
chaos
or
here.
constructive
How
taking
fortunate for the
or
Imperium
bringing
that
into
such
custody
keen-eyed eagles
the goods,
stand
things,
vigil
or
over her
chattels
gates.
by virtue
What
of
dark
a
crafts have
WSD
these
issued by
Eldar
the
invoked?
Collector of
None.
Customs.
At least not here.
So
The servants of
ito,
chaos sacrificed this poor guardsman
seizure,
themselves.
when we
To
say
what
of
end,
seizure,
Isidore?
it
I know
is
not. I believe the
physical
altar is a marker, a waypoint
taking,
in a map that leads
or
elsewhere. Someone
in
to
some
face
other
many
cases,
portions of
it's the
text.
constructive taking of the
Regardless of
goods
what
subject
chaos
of
seeks here,
WSD.
the altar requires a
So,
sacrifice of blood.
nagkakaroon na
or
ng
more
jurisdiction ang
likely, a
Bureau
life.
of
Brother
Customs
Isidore,
dyan.
you have an hour to study the
And
altar.
after the
Document
seizure
everything as is our
the
tradition.
seizure of the
Then burn it,
imported
lest
goods
its
or
taint
the
infect us all.
goods
Gabriel,
subject
there is
to
much to learn
exportation.
from
Sometimes
here.
kasi
We should not
hindi
be
lang
too
po
eager to
imported
learn
goods
what.
ang sinisis.
Chaos does not
Meron din
teach.
pong
It
sinisis na
misleads and it
goods
betrays.
for
There
exportation,
is nothing
and
to
I have
learn here
encountered that
save for our
during my
next
times
course.
as a Chief of Law Division. Meron kaming
These
nasis na
transports have been
goods subject
damaged
for
somehow.
exportation. May nasis
Make the
kami na ganyan.
repairs and be quick.
Nagkamali siya ng ng pag-entrada doon sa MICP, sa POM sana siya. Mali ang deklarasyon. Ayun, subject for seizure siya. So it's not only imported goods So even goods for exportations are being subjected for issuance of WSD. So what is WSD,
Gabriel does
or
not
the warrant
understand.
of seizure
He
and
does not
detention?
appreciate the significance of this.
It is a written order signed by the district collector
Quiet,
of
heretic.
customs.
Once I find
Take
what you
note,
seek,
of
I
course,
will
alam niyo
use it
ito,
against you for the
hindi lang
glory
basta
of the
collector
Emperor
yung
and my
nag-i-issue ng
brothers.
WSD. It is the district collector, not the sub-port collector or the port collectors. Not even the higher ranking officers can issue a WSD. It is directed to the Enforcement and Security Service or any deputized officer of a national law enforcement agency commanding him to seize any property subject to forfeiture pursuant to Section 113 of the CMTA. So I hope the definition of seizure and
Under the orders of
WSD is
Inquisitor Thoth, the
clear.
citizens of Tartarus
So
have
next
began a mass
slide, please.
exodus
Next
of the
slide.
planet. Such an
So what is
action can
forfeiture?
lead to disaster in the best of
So after
situations.
seizure,
But the
what
reports
comes
reaching my
next?
ears are ones of
So
planet-wide
it is the
hysteria as the
forfeiture
population
proceeding.
makes its
So what is
pilgrimage to the two
forfeiture?
main spaceports.
It is
Convoys
the
of
acquisition
transports and
of
civilians on foot are
ownership
being
by
plagued by
government for an
attacks from
established
orc
violation
forces.
of
Stretched thin,
CMTA as
the
a result
Imperial
of
Guard is
forfeiture
barely keeping
proceedings.
order in the major population
Actually,
centers, sacrificing their lives long enough to
forfeiture
hold back
is
the
one of
green
the modes
tide
of
of the orcs.
acquisition
They
of ownership
are
by the Bureau of
truly
Customs.
warriors of the Emperor.
So,
I
pwede
wish for
ring
nothing more than to be able to join
mag-acquire
you
ng
on this
ownership ang
noble
Bureau of
cause.
Customs
But I cannot deny my
through
duty
issuance of
any more
decree of
than they can
abandonment.
deny theirs.
So
We
pagka
have found
naging
proof
final
that
yung
the
decree of
forces of
abandonment,
chaos are
nagiging
operating
property
on the
din siya
planet
ng
of Tartarus.
Bureau of Customs or
Isidore
the
has found
Republic of the
evidence
Philippines.
on the blasphemous
And
altar
another
that
one
indicates
is
they
yung
may be
government's
headed
right
towards
of
Mount Korath,
compulsory
an old
acquisition. Pero
mountain
hindi masyadong hindi
located
nagagamit yun.
dangerously close
Pero
to
those
an
are the
area
modes of
heavy orc
acquiring
activity.
ownership
I
by the
have
Bureau of
requested a
Customs.
regiment of
And
Imperial
one
Guard
of
from
these is
Colonel
forfeiture.
Braun to help cover
Mas
our
matindi nga
approach.
lang itong
I
forfeiture
regret asking when
kasi
the
dito
colonel's
may
forces
violation
are
talaga
already
na
stretched to the breaking point.
sinasabi with
But there are
regard to dun
greater
sa
things at stake now.
imported goods. So this is a violation with regard to the imported goods, and it is not about the consignee or the importer. The proceeding here, the forfeiture proceeding is against the rest or against the property or the imported goods. It is not directed against the importer or the consignee. So dito hindi tinitingnan kung may kasalanan yung yung consignee ang tinitingnan dito kung may violation yung pag-import ng kargamento. Yun yung tinitingnan lang dito. So this is basically an administrative proceeding being conducted by the district collector at his first instance. So this is an original exclusive jurisdiction by the district collector and no other else. Hindi sa korte, hindi sa commissioner, hindi sa ibang forum. Next slide, please. So appeal. Appeal is a remedy by which a person aggrieved or adversely affected
Are you certain?
by any
Yes,
action,
the
decision,
path to
order,
Mount
or
Korath.
omission of the
This
Bureau
is where the altar said we
seeks
must go.
redress before
Why?
the Bureau, the
Do you
Secretary of
question
Finance,
my
or
findings? I do not
competent court.
question your abilities, brother
So,
librarian.
when we say of
But I do
appeal,
question their tactical sense.
ito yung
That mountain pass is the perfect
sinasabi natin na
location for an
halimbawa
ambush.
may decision yung district collector, dinadala natin siya sa Commissioner of Customs. Or likewise, kung may decision din yung Commissioner of Customs with regard to our forfeiture case on appeal, ia-apela natin siya
I do not deny
sa
that this is likely a
Court of
trap,
Tax Appeal.
which is all
So
the more
that is
proof that our
considered
enemy
an
lies
appeal.
in this direction.
And this
Very
must
true,
be
old
distinguished
friend.
with
Stay alert
motion
and
for
follow my lead.
reconsideration. Hindi po
I
yan
want no
magkapareho
mistakes. Agreed.
Kasi very important yan. Pagka nagkamali kayo ng final na
Scouts, are you in position?
pleading
Yes, my
or
lord.
motion,
We have discovered
that
the
will be
location of the
fatal
first
to your
Eldar
case.
forces.
We must
Bigyan ko
find
kayo
a
ng
way to
example.
overcome this Eldar strike
Nagbigay
force
ng
before
decision
we can
yung
scout out a
district
good
collector.
location
The
to stage
decision
our field operations.
has already been rendered by the district collector. And this was promulgated halimbawa nung May 1 or May 2 na lang. So May 2.
Knowledge is power.
So under our rules, the
My knowledge is at your
aggrieved
disposal.
party has 15 days to file an appeal, to file a notice of appeal together with
Hope
a memorandum of
on
appeal.
the road to disappointment.
Eh ang ginawa ng abogado, or hindi naman siguro abogado, yung representative ng importer or consignee,
Yes, my
ang
lord.
ginawa niya, nag-file ng motion
This
for
day shall be a
reconsideration
glorious one for
doon
the
sa
Imperium.
district collector.
I am ready
So
to
what is
serve.
the effect
At your
now?
command.
So malalaman
We
natin
stand
later on
ready.
that a motion for
Commencing
reconsideration
attack.
is a
Walk
prohibited
softly.
pleading or a
Directing
prohibited
orders.
motion. So kung prohibited siya,
At your command.
hindi po siya pwedeng i-take
Yes, my
cognizance
lord.
ng
Yes,
district
my lord.
collector. So anong magiging effect nun? Yung
There is no
15 days
such thing
natin,
as
Heresy
innocence.
grows.
gumagana.
Grace of guilt.
Yes, my
Final
lord.
mo,
Scouts advance.
yung eksaktong 15 day niya, dinismiss ng district collector yon dahil prohibited
Search
pleading
commencing.
siya. So anong mangyayari?
sense
Hindi mo na siya
danger.
pwedeng
We will
i-appeal
root it
sa
out.
commissioner kasi
Search
nag-lapse na yung
commencing.
15-day period mo to appeal.
Yes, my lord.
Because you have availed of the wrong remedy.
Lining up our targets.
So, it is important
Commencing
here to
infiltration.
distinguish what is an appeal and what is a motion for
Gathering
reconsideration.
Yes, my lord.
Inuulit ko, appeal
Commencing infiltration.
from the district collector to the commissioner
Search
or from the
commencing.
commissioner to the Court of Tax Appeals.
Fear denies
Ito naman,
faith.
motion for
Fear not,
reconsideration,
Psycho.
although
Walk softly.
prohibited
An
siya,
open mind is
i-explain
like a
ko na rin.
fortress with its
Yung
gates
decision ng
unbarred and
district
unguarded.
collector,
Yes, my lord.
magmo-motion for reconsideration ka para
This
i-reverse ng
structure
district
is a
collector
webway
ulit
portal.
yung decision niya.
The
Ganon yung
Eldar
motion
use
for
them to
reconsideration.
quickly travel
That
from
is
one
not
location
allowed.
to another. We must
So, it is not
destroy
allowed
any
in
webway portals
forfeiture
we find to
cases
limit the
yung
Eldar's
motion for
mobility.
reconsideration.
Faith
Next
is
slide.
our shield.
So, these are the processes.
Scouts here.
So, when I was the chief of the
This
law
is a good
division,
location to establish a field base.
I
Gabriel to the Litany
consider
of
this
Fury.
as the,
Lock on my location and prepare to drop
the
HQ.
vital stages
Now.
of the processes.
Yes, most
First one
beneficent
is the recommendation for issuance of WSD. So, who recommends the
An
issuance of
open mind is
WSD?
like a fortress with its gates
Oftentimes,
unbarred and
it is
unguarded.
from the assessment. So, sila yung nagre-recommend yan. Meron ding nire-recommend yung operations.
He who stands
And
with me
sometimes
shall
the
be my
enforcement
brother.
group
We are
with
the
regard to
Emperor's chosen.
violation of environmental protection, something like that. Maraming nire-recommend din from the enforcement section, and of course the
Scouts here.
CIIS.
Scouts advance.
Lahat po yan ng
Commencing
Office ng
infiltration.
Bureau of Customs, kung sila po yung in charge doon sa process na may nakita silang violation with regard to the goods, sila po yung nagre-recommend ng WSD
instructions.
sa
We
district
are the
collector.
Emperor's chosen.
Next slide, please. So, what are the
Scouts ready.
reasons or what are the
On
grounds
patrol.
why a WSD is being recommended by the concerned office? So, there are basically, ang nakikita ko may dalawa dito na pwede natin sabihin na
At your command.
usually the reasons for the recommendation for issuance of WSD, which emanates from Section 113 or the property subject for forfeiture, and that is in relation to various sections of the CMTA, such as Section 116, Section 117, Section 118, and those are the
Charge.
provisions on regulated goods, on restricted goods, on prohibited goods. So yun po yun in relation to Section 113, they are being recommended for issuance of WSD. And another one is
Heresy grows
the
from
exercise of the power of the commissioner to inspect and visit under Section 224 of the CMTA. Ito po yung ini-issue
Now that we have
letter of
established our
authority
field
ng
base, we must
Commissioner of
continue through
Customs
the mountain
directing
pass on
the
foot.
officers
Expect heavy resistance.
to
Make
proceed
sure you
to
move cautiously
Initializing build
and keep the field
protocol.
base protected at all times.
the place where the goods are kept na mag-i-inquire yung bureau kung
My
meron
lord,
bang
I have
binayaran
arrived at
na,
your request.
pinagbayaran
We
na
need to
duties
recover
and
the eastern
taxes
pass.
yung mga
The
imported
combat
goods na
that is
nandun
occurring
sa
here will
place na
likely
yun.
attract the orc forces nearby.
I exist to
So,
serve.
We are the
next slide
Emperor's
please.
chosen.
Venerate the immortal emperor.
So, the properties subject to seizure and forfeiture are enumerated under Section 1113 of the Customs Modernization and Tariff Act. So, it is not only the goods, take
Awaiting
note,
orders.
it is not only the goods that are
Yes,
being
most
subjected to
beneficent one.
seizure and forfeiture. Even the
I will do
vehicles,
as you ask.
the vessel,
With
or
all
the
due
aircraft
haste.
being used to transport the
I will
goods
do as you
are
ask.
being
Fear
subjected
denies faith.
to seizure and forfeiture proceedings if
Direct us to
these
the enemy. For the Emperor.
modes of transport are being used
Awaiting orders.
intentionally to smuggle these goods. So, next slide. Next, please. Until the conditions on forfeiture. 18,
I
slide
await
18,
your
please.
instructions. Build routine 721 initiated.
Faith is our shield.
So,
What
these
is
are
your
the
will?
conditions for forfeiture.
Faith is our shield. None
So,
shall
it is
stop us.
understood that forfeiture of the goods shall only be effected when any of the following circumstances exist.
Faith is our shield.
Goods are in the custody or within the jurisdiction of customs officers. So,
I am the instrument of
madali
his
lang
will.
maintindihan to kasi hindi naman pwedeng i-forfeit yung wala na sa Bureau of Customs. Di ba? Ang pino-forfeit diyan yung hindi pa na-file ng entry, yung na-file na ng entry pero nandoon pa sa loob.
We are the
Pero
Emperor's
meron din
chosen.
namang instance na
Heads.
kahit
Commencing
wala na sa loob
infiltration.
ng Bureau of Customs,
Commencing
ito yung
infiltration.
instance na nag-i-issue ng letter of authority yung Bureau of Customs. Pinupuntahan yung isang lugar and doon kahit
At your command.
wala na sa loob ng Bureau of Customs, pwede pa rin siyang isubject
Awaiting
for
orders.
seizure and forfeiture.
Yes, Lord. I will do as you ask,
So,
beneficent one.
Goods are in the possession or custody
Yes,
or
Lord.
subject to control of the importer,
Yes,
exporter,
Lord.
original owner, consignee
I
agent
await your
of another
instructions.
person
With
affecting
all
the
due haste.
importation entry or
Yes,
exportation
my
in
lord.
question.
Search commencing.
Next slide, please. Or
I sense
goods are in
danger.
the possession
Root
or
it out.
custody or
Commencing
subject to
infiltration.
control of
On
persons
patrol.
who shall receive, conceal, buy,
Scouts
sell,
advance,
transport the same, or
gathering
aid in any of
intelligence.
such acts with knowledge
Here
that
to
the goods
serve.
were imported or were
Initializing
subject
build
of an
protocol.
attempt to import or export contrary to
Venerate
law.
the immortal
So kung
emperor.
mapapansin nyo class,
Heresy
I
grows
am the
with night.
instrument of
yung
his will.
una,
By his
subject
will.
to jurisdiction of the customs officers, itong BNC, kahit mismo sa tingin nyo kung halimbawa wala na sa poder ng Bureau of Customs pero
What is your order?
meron kahit papano nalolocate pa rin
Yes, most beneficent
yung
one.
goods dito. Pero meron ako na-encounter nung
With all due haste.
nasa MICP ako. May na-issuean ng WSD but unfortunately medyo nagkaroon ng lapses nakalabas yung kargamento kahit may WSD.
Take me into
So nagkaroon kami ng problema doon sa law division kung paano namin yan i-dispose. Kasi pwede ko bang i-forfeit yung wala na sa Bureau of Customs? Parang ganun yung problema eh. So
At your command.
buti na lang talaga
Yes, most
wala ding
beneficent one.
violation talaga yung kargamento kasi kung nagkataon paano namin i-forfeit yung kargamento na wala na doon sa loob ng Bureau of Customs. So, next slide please. Next slide.
Build routine 721.
So, ito yung sinasabi ko kanina. Even vehicles, vessels, or aircrafts used in carrying smuggled goods in commercial quantity shall be forfeited except if all of the following conditions are present. It is a common carrier.
Awaiting orders.
It has
My
not been
knowledge is at
chartered
your
for
disposal.
conveying and transporting persons or cargo,
It is
and
better to die
the
for
owner
the
or
emperor than
agent
live
at
for
the time of
yourself.
seizure has no knowledge
To me, my
of
brothers.
and participation in the unlawful
Great
act. So,
things.
dito lahat kailangang present po dito para hindi ma-forfeit yung vehicle, vessel, or aircraft. So, when we say common carrier, it has been defined under CAU 10-2020, which refers to persons, corporations, firms, or associations engaged in the
I await
business
your
of
instructions.
carrying or transporting passengers of goods or both by land, water, or air for compensation offering their services to the
Awaiting
public.
orders.
So ginagamit talaga yan
Yes,
sa
Lord.
pagtransport ng goods. So that is a common carrier. And it has not been chartered. So
With all
when we
due
say
haste.
chartered, ito yung kinontrata
Need to
ng
serve.
particular individual or person or entity for the conveyance of or the transporting of the goods for that particular
As you
entity
wish.
or person. So kailangang common carrier siya, and it has not been chartered. Kasi kung kahit common carrier siya, kung kinarter siya ng particular individual or entity, then pwede pa rin
Reporting,
siyang
sir. The
ma-forfeit.
Emperor
And of
protects.
course, the owner or the agent has no knowledge or simply in good faith siya. So wala siyang alam doon sa smuggling na nangyari. Next slide, please. However, take note that a prima facie presumption against such vehicles, vessel, or aircraft shall exist under any of the following circumstances. If conveyance has been
At your
used for
command.
smuggling before,
Taking
if
heavy
owner
fire.
is not in the business for which the
Yes, my
conveyance
lord.
is
We'll
generally
get
used,
through this. I know
if
it.
owner is not financially in a position to own such conveyance. So dito may na-encounter na rin ako yung mga truck na ginagamit. So
Following
minsan
orders.
hindi lang isang beses na
Reporting,
nakapag-load
sir. The
sila
Emperor
ng
protects.
kargamento na meron palang na subject ng WST. So nagkakaproblema din
We'll
minsan
get
yun.
through this. I know it.
But of course, he can
We'll get
always
through this.
prove
I know it. We'll get
na
through
walang
this. I
kinalaman
know
naman
it.
yung
We'll
may-ari
get
ng
through
truck.
this.
So
I know it.
prima
The Emperor
facie
protects.
presumption lang to. Hindi na ibig sabihin
Following
na
orders.
siya talaga ay may kasalanan. So the
Yes.
owner of the
The Emperor
conveyance
protects.
or the vessel or aircraft can always prove his or her innocence dun sa transportation ng smuggled goods. Pero ito yung iniisip ko. Ito yung mga ginagamit na mga barko kaya. 'Di ba? Kung isipin mo siguro nakailang beses na rin nakapag-transport yan ng mga smuggled goods, 'di ba? Pero hindi naman yan na-implement yan. Pero yun lang, na-implement ito, nakikita ko dun sa mga mga tracking.
Yes, Lord.
Yung mga trucks dito nagkakaproblema eh.
I will do
So
as
take
you
note
ask.
sa mga owners ng may tracking business. So kung nakapangalawa na or mas marami, you can always prove your innocence naman. This is only a prima facie presumption. So
Yes,
pag may
Lord.
prima facie
I
presumption,
shall obey.
anong mangyayari? May issuean din talaga ng WSD, yung vehicle, vessel, or aircraft. And it needs a hearing. So mag-hearing talaga yan. Hindi mo maiwasan na mag-hearing, but you can always prove. Next slide, please. So
Scouts here.
the power to inspect and visit under Section 224 of
I await
the
your
Customs
instructions.
Modernization and Tariff Act. So, ito yung sinasabi ko kanina na kahit wala na sa jurisdiction ng Bureau of Customs, nasa labas na yan, the commissioner or his authorized representative may issue a letter of authority in order that customs officers may conduct the inspection and visit of a particular place where imported goods are being held.
Faith is
Next
our
slide,
shield.
please.
Here to serve.
So, as I have said, the commissioner or any customs officer who is authorized in writing by the commissioner may demand evidence of payment of duties and taxes on imported goods openly for sale or kept in storage. Next slide. So when the Bureau exercises the power to inspect and visit under Section 224 of the CMTA, the owner of the goods may present proof of payment of duties and taxes within 15 days.
Yes.
So within 15 days from the presentation or the receipt of the letter of authority together with the mission order, the owner of the goods or the possessor
Marine Squad
may
deployed.
present
What is your order?
proof of payment of
Stay
duties and
vigilant,
taxes.
brothers.
So ito, kailangan yung malaman ito sa akin kasi napaka-importante ito kasi meron tayong halimbawa, may proof of local purchase tayo, akala natin okay na yon, hindi po okay yon. So kasi nung nasa law division ako, akala ko din okay yon nung chief ako ng law division. But after na-approve namin yung release ng kargamento, dinis-approve ni-reverse ng Commissioner of Customs. Bakit? I-discuss ko dito. So, pwedeng i-present yung proof of payment within 15 days. So, kung siya yung original importer, present lang niya yung payment of correct duties and taxes or proof of exemption from payment of duties and taxes. So, that is
maintain attack
kung
formation.
yung owner mismo ay siya mismo yung importer. What if hindi naman siya yung importer? Binili lang niya. Binili lang niya pero itong mga binili niya ay imported goods. So what will you produce? What will you present to the customs officers? You should present the proof of local purchase. Hindi lang po yun ang kailangan, and payment of correct duties and taxes by the original importer. Dito ako nagkamali nung inaamin ko, nagkamali ako nung chief ako ng law division dito, may na-approve ako dati na
Apothecary ready.
pinayagan namin na ma-release kasi may na-present siya na local, proof of local purchase. And hindi pala siya kompleto. Hinanapan din ng proof of payment of correct duties and taxes by the original importer. So dito nagkakaproblema po yung may-ari. Kasi minsan hindi nagpa-participate yung original importer, hindi niya binibigay yung proof of payment of the correct duties and taxes. And minsan wala talaga siyang ebidensya din talaga. Kasi minsan yung mga negosyante bili ng bili, wala namang hindi naman na hinihingi talaga yung yung proof of payment of duties and taxes. Most likely kahit ako siguro pagka hindi ko alam ito, hindi ko rin hihingiin yun So dito nagkakaproblema. So I would advise you kung may mga clients kayo na ganyan, talagang i-present talaga not only the proof of local purchase but also the payment of proof of payment of the duties and taxes by the original importer. Mas may problema yan pag ang pinagbilhan ay binili din niya through local purchase din. So, hanapin niyo talaga kung sino yung original importer, and that will be a big problem talaga kung sino yung original importer. Next slide please. So, ito naman, kung talagang locally produced siya, you can present proofs na locally produced or manufactured yung goods and hindi siya imported. So ganun, wala ka nang dapat ipakita na proof of payment of duties and taxes kasi locally produced or manufactured. Next slide. So how about if a warrant of seizure and detention has already been issued in the exercise of the power to inspect and visit? So the goods may still be released to the owner under the following circumstances. First is that proof of exemption from payment of duties and taxes or proof of payment of correct duties and taxes were presented and are found to be authentic and in order. Ito yung na-present mo na siya after 15 days. Kasi ang requirement kanina 15 days lang. So after that period, ang gagawin talaga ng mga customs officers is i-recommend for issuance ng warrant of seizure and detention.
Yes,
So ito late yung presentation nito.
How can I serve?
Next slide.
Faith is our shield.
Ito,
Yes,
proof of
sir.
local purchase and payment of correct duties and taxes
The enemy is
by the
attacking.
original importer. Proof was presented that the goods were locally produced or manufactured. And the owner of the goods may
Yes,
also
Lord.
voluntarily
Yes,
pay
Lord.
the duties and taxes
Death from above.
provided claimant presented a proof of local purchase. So, ito ang medyo tricky dito eh. So, voluntary payment of duties and taxes provided claimant presented a proof of local purchase.
Yes,
Isipin mo,
Lord.
what about if the owner of the goods is also the original importer? Pwede ba siyang mag-produce
Marine squad
pwede ba
deployed.
siyang mag-offer ng voluntary payment of
With
duties
all
and
due
taxes?
haste.
I think hindi pwede kasi very clear yung provision dito na provided claimant presented a proof of local purchase. So ang import nito is hindi siya yung original
The
importer.
fallen shall be
Kasi
forever remembered as the
If the
Emperor's
owner
finest.
is the original importer, then he
What
need
are you
not
need?
present the
Stand
proof of
ready.
local purchase.
Understood.
So, ang naisip ko lang dito kaya hindi pinapayagan yung original importer na mag-voluntarily pay. Kasi nga kung gano'n ang nangyari, most likely may fraud attendant to
Lord.
the importation
Yes,
of the goods. So, yun yung naiisip ko rin dyan. Kaya, bakit hindi pwede yung original importer na mag-voluntarily pay ng duties and taxes?
I will do as
So,
you
next
ask.
slide please. If the owner cannot present proof of local purchase, it is presumed he is the importer of the goods
I
in his
await
possession.
your instructions.
However, if the owner can overcome such presumption, provided
Yes,
that
Lord.
all conditions stated in section 14.4 of this order are complied with,
As you wish.
the goods may be released, provided an offer to settle the case by
The
payment
battlefield
of
awaits.
redemption value of the goods shall have been made and accepted. So, redemption lang yung pwede dito. Hindi siya pwede yung settlement by payment of fine. So, talagang babayaran niya talaga. Ito ay kung wala siyang proof siguro, but he overcomes the presumption na hindi siya yung importer
At
ng
your command.
na imported goods.
I follow your
Iba yung kanina na
Yes,
nakapag-present
my
siya
lord.
ng
At your
proof of
command.
local
Yes,
purchase.
sir.
So doon pwedeng mag-voluntarily pay ng duties and taxes. Itong isa naman, itong nasa
Reporting,
bandang
sir.
huli,
The Emperor protects.
wala siyang may present na
Scouts
mga
awaiting
proof.
orders.
Kung wala siyang may present na mga proof, but at the same time,
The fallen
na-prove
shall be
naman niya na
forever
hindi siya
remembered
yung
as the
original
Emperor's
importer,
finest.
pwede pa rin niyang kuhanin yung mga goods provided na magbayad siya ng redemption value of the
Yes, my
goods.
lord.
So redemption lang. Hindi siya pwedeng magbayad ng fine.
The enemy is attacking.
Next slide. So ito yung sinasabi kanina under section 14.4 of CAW 10-2020.
Here to serve.
In all cases, the
The
release of
fallen shall be
goods
forever
seized
remembered
pursuant
as the
to
Emperor's
section
finest.
224 of the CNTA shall be subject to the clearance of the Commissioner provided that the goods are not prohibited,
Yes, Lord.
the necessary permits and licenses are presented in case of restricted or regulated
Here to
goods,
serve.
and the release of the goods is not contrary to law. Ito lagi ang nilalagay namin doon sa decision namin pag pinapayagan
I
namin
will do as you ask.
yung
Here to
release ng
serve.
isang kargamento or inaalaw namin siya through settlement by payment of fine or redemption of the goods by payment of the total landed cost.
With all due haste.
So ito lagi naming hinahanap ito sa law division, pag nagde-decide kami, kailangang present lahat itong mga requirements na to. Hindi prohibited yung goods, the necessary permits and licenses are present, and the release is not contrary to law. Kailangan present lahat yan. So if you
Yes, my lord.
avail of remedies or any of the remedies allowed by law, kailangan yung siguraduhin na present itong mga to, na hindi siya prohibited, hindi siya contrary to law, para mag-prosper yung availed remedy nyo. Next slide, please. So, this is another
Yes,
important
most beneficent
topic.
one.
Hindi natin masyadong nakikita ito. Pero kung ma-master mo nyo ito, baka hindi ma-issuean ng WSD yung kargamento nyo na nire-recomendahan po ng
Yes, Lord.
issuance of warrant of seizure and detention. So, determination of probable cause. Probable cause has not been defined in our rules and even under the CMTA. But I have just tumingin na lang ako ng definition ng probable cause under our criminal laws. Next slide, please.
Yes, my lord. Search commencing.
So, under Arroyo versus Sandigan Bayan, probable cause has been defined as the existence of such facts and circumstances as would excite the belief in a reasonable mind acting the facts which within the knowledge of the prosecutor that the person charged was guilty of the crime for which he was prosecuted. So ito naman
What are your needs?
ang nilagay ko dito para sa criminal, pero hindi naman precisely, hindi ito para sa atin.
I follow your
Pero we
commands.
can use the definition of probable cause.
Heresy grows
So
on
pag
ISIS.
sinabi nating probable cause, ibig sabihin ba
We
guilty
are
na
the
yung
emperors chosen.
nasasakdal or the accused? Hindi po ganon. So just the same, when the
The fallen
district
shall be forever
collector
remembered
has
as the emperor's finest.
determined that there is a probable cause in issuing a
fallen shall be
WSD,
forever remembered
it does
as the
not
emperor's
necessarily
finest.
mean na meron na
Yes,
talagang
Lord.
violation yung kargamento. Pero pwedeng may violation, parang ganun lang yung sinasabi nun. So in the forfeiture proceedings, you can always prove na walang violation yung kargamento. So next slide. Next slide,
How
please.
can I serve?
Next slide. The existence of probable
Heresy
cause
grows
to
from
warrant
kindness.
the issuance of a WSD shall be determined by the district
What
collector
are your
within
needs?
5 working days or 2 working days in case of perishable goods from
What are your
receipt of
needs?
recommendation
Yes, my
for
lord.
issuance of a
Apothecary
WSD.
here.
The district collector may, on meritorious circumstances, conduct summary proceedings for the determination of the existence of probable cause. So ito, ituturo ko to sa inyo. Actually, there are 2 kinds of probable cause here kung paano dinedetermine yung probable cause. Unang-una, if there is a recommendation coming from the concerned office for the issuance of the WSD, the district collector may outrightly issue a WSD. We cannot prevent that because he is allowed under the rules to determine within 5 working days. So kung isang araw lang yan, inisyo ng WSD, wala tayong magagawa. Pero kung ito kung maagap yung importer or the broker or yung representative, before the issuance of WSD, the importer may file a motion for determination of probable cause. Pag nag-file ka po noon, hindi po may isuhan ng WSD kaagad-agad
Awaiting
yung
orders.
kargamento. So, dapat maging maagap tayo dito kung alam na nating pai-isuhan na ng WSD yan, mag-file na tayo kagad ng motion for determination of probable cause kung sa pagkakaalam natin ay may laban naman yung yung kaso natin kung sa tingin natin ay nagkakamali yung customs officer in recommending for the issuance of a WSD. Unahan po natin siya before the issuance of WSD and it will tool. I-stop niya yun, the law division or the district collector will conduct a summary hearing with regard to this motion for determination of probable cause. So mag-i-issue yung district collector dito ng resolution as to whether or
I
not
follow your commands.
a WSD will still be issued.
An open
Or not.
mind is like a fortress with its
So,
gates unlocked
yun.
and unguarded.
Importante yun ha. So, next slide.
Taking damage.
Next slide please.
Yes, Lord.
Awaiting orders.
Ito. If a release order is issued for an alerted shipment, the district collector shall immediately transmit
Yes, my lord.
the record of the case to the commissioner for clearance or approval.
At your command.
Ito, yung release order na to presupposes na merong alert
Hope is
yan.
the first step on the road to
Kasi
disappointment.
minsan may mga recommendation for WSD naman, walang alert order issued yan.
Fear not the psycho.
But because of the conduct of physical examination, halimbawa may mga nakita sila na ganito, that is why they recommended the issuance of WSD.
Only degrees
And
of
after
guilt.
the determination of probable cause, wala naman pala. So may release order siya. So ito, kailangan pa bang i-transmit sa commissioner yon?
No servant of the
Depende.
emperor shall fall if I can help it.
Kung may alert order siya, kailangan talaga i-transmit yung records of the case to the commissioner for his final approval kasi yan ang rule pag may alert. Pero pag walang alert, dun na lang pwede nang i-release ka agad dun sa 4th level.
Taking haste.
So take note kung may alert o walang alert. Pag may alert, kailangan talagang aakyat yan for approval.
Reporting for duty.
Final approval of the
Activating jump
Commissioner of
Yes,
Customs.
my lord.
Pag wala, kahit sa district level na lang, pwede nang i-release yun.
What is your will?
Next
He
slide.
who stands with me shall be my brother.
The fallen shall be
Next slide,
forever
please.
remembered as the emperor's finest. We stand
So
ready.
if the commissioner issues an order reversing the release order of the district collector
Softly.
before the lapse of the period to review, the same shall be referred to the district collector
The
for the
battlefield awaits.
issuance of the
No
appropriate
servant of the emperor shall
WSD.
fall if I can help it.
So may release order yung district collector, pero pagdating sa commissioner ni reverse niya, hindi. Sabi niya, may probable cause ito, issuehan nyo ng WSD. So doon, wala nang choice kundi issuehan talaga ng WSD ng district
Scouts
collector.
awaiting orders.
Next slide. So this is now the
On
time
patrol.
a WSD
Here to serve.
is
I
already
exist to
issued.
serve.
Next slide,
I
please.
shall obey.
Taking damage.
This
So who has
day
the
shall be a
authority to
glorious
issue a
battlefield
WSD? It is the
awareness.
district collector exercising
Praise
territorial
the Emperor.
jurisdiction over the location of the seized goods.
What is your order?
So take note,
Fear our
the district collector.
On
It's
alert,
not the
brothers.
sub-port collector
The enemy must be
who has the
nearby.
original and exclusive authority to
Heresy
issue
grows from idleness.
WSD within his territorial
How do I serve?
jurisdiction.
Under fire.
The Emperor protects.
Next slide, please.
For the
So, service of
glory
warrant
the
of
Emperor.
WSD.
Apothecary here. Yes, my
Next
lord.
slide.
At your
The district
command,
collector shall
search commencing.
immediately
Scouts
direct the enforcement and security
serve?
service to serve the
Directly to the
WSD
injured.
within
Knowledge
3
is
working
power.
days from
Act at
its
will.
issuance.
Do I detect uncertainty
Next slide.
in your
Yes,
purpose?
my lord. Yes, my lord.
For the purpose of serving the WSD, the importer, consignee, named in the bill of lading or
battlefield
airway
awaits.
bill or possessor shall be deemed the owner of the goods. So, sa kanila po yan ipapareceive kung saan yung
The
address ng
Emperor
importer, ng
protects.
consignee.
For the glory of the Emperor.
Doon nila po ipapareceive yung WSD.
Area
If
secure.
the owner is unknown with insufficient address or a foreign entity or individual, service shall be effected by posting of the WSD by DSS in the bulletin board. So ito, it speaks if the owner is unknown or with insufficient address. Hindi ito yung case na may sufficient address siya, hindi mo lang malocate. Hindi mo malocate kung nasaan yung ano niya, yung address niya. Hindi pwede yung posting ng bulletin board. Hindi obra po yun pag may address siya. So kailangan mo talagang hanapin yun. Kailangan talagang hanapin ng ESS ng customs para may iserve yung WSD. At any rate, meron namang return of service yung ESS. Pwede naman niyang sabihin na hindi niya talaga malocate. Next slide, please. So ito yung return of service. The ESS or duly deputized officer tasked to serve the WSD shall submit to the district collector a return within 24 hours from the service thereof. So kailangan niyang ipaalam doon sa district collector as to whether or not na-serve niya or hindi within 24 hours. Next slide, please. So this is now the forfeiture proceedings.
Yes, my lord.
Next slide. So the Bureau of Customs shall exercise exclusive and original jurisdiction over all forfeiture cases. So this cannot be heard initially in any other courts. So sino lang yung may jurisdiction dito? It is the Bureau of Customs. And after the Bureau of Customs, anong mga offices ang possible na mag-acquire ng jurisdiction? Appellate jurisdiction. It may be either the Secretary of Finance or the Court of Tax Appeals. Depende po yan. Pag automatic review, yun lang po yung case na umaakyat po yan sa Secretary of Finance pag adverse to the government din yung decision ng Commissioner of Customs. Pero kung apela po yan, inaapela ng ng may-ari, inaapela ng importer, ng consignee, ang patutunguhan po ng ng appeal niyan is from the Commissioner of Customs to the Court of Tax Appeals and not an appeal from the Commissioner of Customs to the Secretary of Finance. Hindi po iyon. Mapupunta lang sa Secretary of Finance po yan pagka automatic review. Pag hindi po automatic review, pag appeal po yan from the importer, Court of Tax Appeals po yan. So next slide, please. So the venue, of course, it is the law division of the collection district. Minsan walang law division. The venue shall be at the office of the district collector. So minsan wala ding abogado. So anong gagawin niya? Next slide, please. So this is also an important provision ipso facto forfeiture.
Yes, my lord.
If the subject shipment involved has been sufficiently established to be prohibited,
Knowledge is power.
the same shall be ipso facto forfeited in favor of the government. So what is ipso facto forfeiture? Ito, pagka na-establish mo talaga na bawal talaga yung in-import niyan. So kasi generally speaking, kailangan po talaga ng due process with regard to forfeiture. So generally, hindi mo siya pwedeng i-forfeit ang isang kargamento. We cannot forfeit imported articles without conducting due process. When we say due process, bibigyan po natin ng pagkakataon yung mga may-ari or claimants to prove their case na wala pong violation yung kargamento. But there is an instance where even without notice, kasi halimbawa lang, droga yung pinarating, bibigyan mo pa ba ng notice yung may-ari? Kung sufficiently established na drugs yun, or halimbawa, shabu yan, is there a possibility na pwedeng makuha ng importer or consignee? So, wala na po. Kaya ipso facto forfeiture po yung mga prohibited goods talaga. Yung ukay-ukay, pagka-establish talaga na ukay-ukay, pwedeng ipso facto forfeiture din yan. Unless, pagka halimbawa, hindi sigurado naman yung customs kung ukay-ukay talaga yun bibigyan niya ng pagkakataon din yung may-ari. Kasi
There's
nga,
no
ang
such thing as innocence.
kaya pwedeng ipso
Only
facto
degrees of
forfeiture
guilt.
dito
Taking haste.
because the seizure case or the forfeiture case is against the property only and it's not against the importer or
Under
consignee.
fire.
So hindi naman
Fear
necessary
not.
na halimbawa, hindi akong may-ari niyan. Sasabihin ng importer or consignee, hindi naman relevant dun sa forfeiture case. Kasi hindi ito
Scouts in position.
Hindi
We'll move
ito
ahead and mark
paglabag
any
ng
enemy
ang
positions.
pinag-uusapan
Gathering
dito hindi yung paglabag
Scouts
ng
advance.
importer or
I
consignee.
sense danger.
Ang
We will root it
pinag-uusapan
out.
sa
Search
forfeiture
commencing.
case is yung kung
Scouts
may
awaiting
paglabag
orders.
yung kargamento.
Getting into
Kaya
position.
kahit hindi mo nabigyan ng pagkakataon yun, if it was sufficiently established that the goods were prohibited, the same shall be ipso facto forfeited by the government. Next slide please. Ito, partial seizure of the shipment. Ito, nagkakaproblema pa rin ang mga brokers dito. And even the importers kasi nga, kahit partial seizure pa yan, meron pa rin WSD. And what is the effect pag may WSD? Suspension po yan ng accreditation ng mga brokers. So,
We stand ready.
kahit partial siya, minsan may na-encounter ako doon, may doon sa isang 1x40 na container, meron lang nailagay doon na isang CD.
How can I serve?
Napakaliit. Yun pa yung hindi naman pwedeng tanggalin lang yung CD doon tapos i-release yung yung kargamento. Anong gagawin doon? May partial seizure ng yung compact disc kasi walang permit yun. Ano mangyayari? Doon sa simple violation na yon, magkakaroon ng suspension ng accreditation yung broker na may hawak noon.
Rose from idleness.
So what is partial seizure of the shipment? If the offense relates only to a part or
Yes,
portion of a
most
shipment,
beneficent one.
only that part shall be seized or detained, provided that the district collector is satisfied that the remainder of the shipment was not used directly or indirectly in the commission of the offense.
Yes,
So
most
pwedeng partial
beneficent
seizure
one.
of the shipment. Pero most often than not,
Yes,
partial
Lord.
seizure is not allowed. It is frowned.
With all due haste.
So
Initializing
kadalasan
build protocol.
seizure of the whole shipment yan. Pero meron namang
Yes,
inaalaw
Lord.
na partial seizure.
Yes, Lord.
So
Build routine 721
ano
initiated.
ang ginagawa ng may-ari pag may partial seizure? So ang gagawin po diyan para sa kaalaman ng lahat,
Scouts here.
magpa-file ng motion for segregation sa law
Scouts
division.
awaiting orders.
Kasi
Scouts
kung
advance.
ipapasegregate mo yung wala namang violation para ma-release siya. Hindi kasi pwedeng walang segregation order eh. So there must be a segregation order to be issued by the district collector para mai-release yung shipment na walang violation. So what will you do pag may partial seizure of the shipment? You must file a motion for segregation. So that the district collector may issue a segregation order. Yun po yung magiging
While the
hawak
enemies of the Emperor still draw
ng
breath,
assessment
there can be no
para mai-release po yung kargamento.
As the Emperor's finest.
Next slide please.
An open mind is like
So
a
pleadings,
fortress with its
notices,
gates
and
unbarred
appearances.
and
Yes,
Ito
most beneficent one.
procedural po ito pero kailangan din po nating malaman kahit papano. Next slide please.
The fallen shall be
All
forever
pleadings shall be
remembered as
filed
the Emperor's
personally.
finest.
So when we say personally, yung taga-customs mismo ang magpapa-receive doon sa mismong may-ari or sa mismong juridical entity.
walk softly.
It may also be by registered mail, ito yung post office, or private courier service
Here
with
to
the
serve.
appropriate law division or office of the district collector.
Initializing build protocol.
Pwede na rin nating isama kasi practice din namin dati ito nung nasa law division kami.
I will do
Kasi
as
meron
you
na rin
ask.
namang official email yung mga registered importers, kinukuha namin yan dyan sa Accounts Management Office. doon namin na pinapa-receive. And that is considered as an official transmission of the pleadings. Basta official siya. And kailangan din, official din yung account na gamit namin. So when we say official, kailangan yung account ng Bureau of Customs. So usually yung account kong ginagamit ko, yung account ko sa Bureau of Customs. So what is the effect kung pwede niyong sabihin pag hindi official yung ginamit ng kung sino nagpadala man dun sa law division ng pleadings or yung notices na galing sa law division, pwede niyong sabihin na hindi namin na-receive.
Taking hits.
On patrol.
Kasi it
we'll
is
move
not
ahead
officially
and mark
transmitted.
any enemy positions.
So that is the effect. So kailangan mga official accounts lahat ng pagpapadalhan ang gagamitin magpapadala.
He who
Kasi
stands with me
kung
shall be
pinadala
my
lang ng
brother.
ng law division of
No
the district
service
collector
with
dun
emperor
sa
shall fall if
account nga ng ng email nga ng importer pero hindi naman siya yung officially registered with the amo, considered siya na hindi pa rin siya pinadala. Pwede nyong i-argue po yun. Bilang abogado po, alam po yan
Scouts
ni
ready.
Attorney Norby.
I sense danger.
Technical.
We will root it out.
So, if the pleadings are sent by private courier, ito po yung pagkakaiba ha.
activating
Private
jump
courier service, the date of receipt by the law division or office of the district collector shall be considered as the date of filing. Unlike doon sa registered mail, doon sa post office,
activating
kung ano
jump
yung
back.
date ng pag-mail
Yes,
mo,
my lord.
yun po yun
The
yung
battlefield awaits.
yung date of filing ng pleading. So ano po ang effect niyan? Madidetermine mo kaagad pag doon ka sa post office nagpadala. Kasi yung date of pag mail mo, yun na rin yung date of filing. So makikita mo yan
How
kung
can I serve?
pasok ka
Faith
pa
is our shield.
doon sa reglementary period na usually 15 days yan. So ito naman pag private courier service ang ginamit mo, magkakaiba po yan. Yung date of receipt by the law division or the office of the district collector. So pwedeng pasok nung nagpadala ka dun sa private courier pero nung pagka-receive ng law division or the district collector, late na
Under
siya.
fire.
Kasi may time pa yan from yung pagpapadala mo at saka yung pagka-receive ng law division, i-plus mo yun, baka late ka na. So that is the implication pag private courier service ang ginamit mo.
My faith
Next
is my
slide, please.
shield. I shall not fail.
Scouts here.
So
Scouts advance.
this is the effect. Pleadings filed beyond
What
the
would you
reglementary
have me
period
do?
shall be considered as mere scrap of paper. So if it is considered as a mere scrap of paper, that will be not taken into consideration and the decision will be rendered based on available
Under
evidence
fire.
on hand. So, kung wala kang present na ebidensya, kung ano lang yung ebidensya na hawak ng law division or ng district collector, yun na lang yung gagamitin. So, most likely,
We are
baka
the emperor's chosen.
ma-forfeit talaga yon
The mutant.
yung
The heretic.
yung kargamento.
What are your needs?
Next slide, please.
We are the emperor's chosen.
So,
Activating jump
pag
back.
lawyer ang
This day
ginamit, a
shall be
lawyer
a
appearing in
glorious
any
one
forfeiture
for the
case must be
Imperium.
duly
Yes, my
authorized
lord.
by the claimant.
Crush the enemies of
This
the
day
emperor.
All
shall be a
pleadings and
glorious
motions
one
submitted
for the
by a
Imperium.
lawyer appearing for the claimant must indicate his or her office address, electronic mail address,
Beware the angel,
attorney's
the
rule
mutant,
number
the
and
heretic.
PTR
Here to
numbers
serve.
and MCLE compliance. So napaka-stricto
I will
naman
do
pala
as
pagka
you
abogado yung
wish.
magre-represent dun sa importer or consignee.
On alert, brothers.
So
The
in
enemy
case
must
the
be
claimant
your
is a juridical entity, it may
Orders
authorize
received.
a responsible officer of
Fear
the
demands
company
faith.
to appear in its behalf. So pwede namang hindi
Maintain attack
abogado.
formation.
When we say juridical
Here to serve.
entity, ito yung
Yes,
halimbawa yung
most
corporation,
beneficent one.
partnership, yan yung may mga juridical yan.
Build
Separate
routine
personality
721
yan.
initiated.
Unlike pagka sole proprietorship, wala po yung separate juridical entity. Next slide please.
Build routine 721
For individual
initiated.
claimants, yung mga sole proprietorships of goods of small value, a licensed customs broker. So po pwede po kayo dito or his
Build
authorized
routine
representative may be
721
allowed to appear on his
initiated.
behalf. goods of small value
Here to
covers those
serve.
with value of less than 50,000 pesos cleared
Initializing
through an
build
informal
protocol.
entry
Praise
process.
the Emperor
So,
for the
pero
honor
sa
of the
akin, pwede pa
chapter.
rin, kahit
What are your
juridical
needs?
entity, pwede pa rin namang i-represent ng licensed customs broker yan. Basta duly
I
authorized siya.
follow your
An
commands.
attorney in fact
No
appearing in any
survey
forfeiture
emperor
case
shall
ito
fall if I
must be
know this.
duly authorized by the claimant. Pagka
Ever vigilant.
corporation po yan or
Yes, my lord.
partnership,
Yes, my lord.
meron po yan
I
dapat
sense
na
danger.
pagka
We'll root it
corporation
out.
merong secretary's certificate or board resolution
We'll move
authorizing
ahead.
the
Mark
attorney in
our
fact.
positions.
Pagka sole proprietorship naman, kailangan po ng SPA.
How can I serve?
Pagka hindi yung may-ari yung
Yes, my lord.
agpapakita dun sa forfeiture hearing.
Reporting, sir. Yes, my
Next slide.
lord.
So pag nasa abroad yung claimant, the authorization must be duly authenticated by the consular office. So a party appearing without proper authorization from the claimant
We
for
are the
two
emperor's chosen.
successive hearings shall be considered as in default
Maintain attack
and
formation.
authorize the presentation of the evidence ex parte.
For the glory
So ito yung
of the
sinasabi ko,
Imperium.
evidence ex parte, kung
Activating
yung
jump
anong
pack.
present na evidence ng
At your
pang side
command.
ng bureau, yun
For
po
the
yung
glory of the
gagamitin
Imperium.
lang. So
Taking damage.
you have
What's
forfeited
your order?
the opportunity to present the evidence in
Activating
favor
jump
of the
pack.
consignee. Next slide.
We stand
Next slide,
ready.
please.
Activating jump pack.
Next slide.
Scouts here, infiltrating enemy territory.
Next,
Awaiting
please.
orders.
Next slide. Next slide, please.
I await your instructions.
So after the termination of the hearing,
Direct us to the enemy.
the hearing officer shall require the claimant to submit its verified position paper within 5 days from
Taking
date
hits.
of the last hearing. Copy furnished the government prosecutor.
Yes, most
Itong
beneficent
government
one.
prosecutor natin, class, ito yung nanggagaling dun sa prosecution and litigation
As you
division.
wish.
So sila po yung government prosecutor. Noong panahon ng pandemic po, usually hindi na kami nagkakandak talaga ng face-to-face hearing noon. So ang ginagawa namin diyan, nagpapasubmit kami ng verified position
The
paper,
enemy is attacking.
direct yung verified position paper na dati.
We stand ready.
But in rare instances, pagka gusto talaga ng importer na may face-to-face, pinagbibigyan naman namin with due regard to health
Scouts ready.
protocols naman yung ginagawa namin.
Search commencing.
So ngayon siguro, hindi ko na alam ngayon kung ina-allow na nila yung face-to-face. Siguro dahil alert level 1 na tayo, baka pwede na.
At your command.
So next please.
Yes, most beneficent one.
So within 5 days from
I
receipt of
exist
the
to
position
serve.
paper, the
I will
government
do as
prosecutor
you ask.
shall file its comment. Copy
Yes,
furnished the
Lord.
claimant.
With all due
The
haste.
claimant may file a verified reply. So ito, may verified position paper
Here to serve.
yung consignee or the importer kanina.
Initializing
So within
build
5 working
protocol.
days, yung government prosecutor kailangan niyang magbigay ng
With all due haste.
comment.
Build routine
So yung comment na
721
yon,
initiated.
ika-copy furnish
Build routine
again
721
to the
initiated.
importer. And the importer may file. So take note of the word may file. So hindi na niya kailangang i-file pero pwede.
Attack.
Pwede pa rin siya mag-file ng verified reply. Kung gusto niyang replyan yung comment,
The
pwede.
fallen shall be forever
Pero kung ayaw na niyang
remembered as the
replyan,
emperor's
pwede naman.
finest.
Hindi siya mandatory na
Today, the
replyan
enemy
yung
shall know fear.
comment ng government prosecutor. So after that,
At
the
your command.
case will be submitted for resolution. Next please.
Commencing
So the
infiltration.
district collector shall render a decision within 30 days or 10 days in case of
Getting into
perishable goods
position.
upon submission of the case for resolution. Next slide. So these are the prohibited pleadings and motions. Next slide. The following pleadings and motions shall not be allowed and acted upon by the Law Division
We're here.
or Office of the District Collector. Huwag niyong gagawin po ito. Pag ginawa niyo ito, baka ito ground ng dismissal ng ng adverse decision or decision against the consignee or the importer. Motion for postponement. So, pinapapostpone mo yung hearing except it is based on acts of God or force majeure.
On patrol.
So, yung mga hindi inaasang pagkakataon.
Getting into position. I sense danger. We will
Pero
root it
kailangan
out.
acts of God siya or force majeure. Halimbawa, earthquake.
Taking heavy fire.
Biglang nagkaroon ng pwede bang war? Pwede yan. Ano pa? Basta acts of God or force majeure.
What is it
At
you
yung sinasabi
desire?
ko kanina, motion for reconsideration. So it is a prohibited
Fear
motion.
denies faith.
So you cannot do that. Instead, mag-file ka ng appeal. So motion for extension of time to file pleadings. Ito.
To the skies. To the skies.
Next slide, please. Motion to quash,
What is your order?
recall, leave, or set aside or any other similar motion, but subject to exceptions. May exceptions yan. Pwede kang mag-file pa rin ng motion to quash doon sa mga particular instances. Motion to suspend or hold in abeyance for future proceedings and motion to reopen. So these are the prohibited motions.
We are the
Next slide.
Emperor's chosen.
Scouts awaiting orders.
So what are the remedies?
We stand
First
ready.
one is quashal or recall of WST.
I await your
So when we say
instructions.
quashal, it has been defined under section 3.21 of CAU 10-2020
Build routine 721 initiated.
as the recall of warrant of seizure and detention when the ground for the
Here
issuance
to
of
serve.
thereof is found to be
The
non-existent
enemy is attacking.
or cease to exist. So, pwede. Di ba kanina, ang sinabi natin kanina, motion to quash or recall is a prohibited motion. But there are exceptions. Next slide. The warrant of seizure and detention may be quashed under any of the following grounds. First one is in case of goods seized pursuant to the power of the commissioner to inspect and visit, the claimant was able to submit proof as required under section 5.1 of
This
this
day
order.
shall be a glorious
So,
one for the Imperium.
despite na nakapag-submit siya ng proof of payment, na-issuean pa rin siya ng WSD, pwedeng i-quash yan. Pwedeng mag-file ng motion to quash. Kasi nga, na-submit naman niya
To
yung
the skies.
proof of payment, pero bakit pa rin siya in-issue ng WSD? So, the remedy here is motion to quash or motion to recall the WSD. Next slide. Another instance is that the district collector issuing the WSD has no territorial jurisdiction over the seized goods without prejudice to the issuance of WSD by the district collector having territorial
Search
jurisdiction
commencing.
thereof. So nangyari na yan nung time ko sa MICP. Merong sinis na vessel dati. There was a vessel that was seized in the Manila Bay waters. So alam natin na vast yung Manila Bay, may part yan ng Bataan. So it turned out na yung inisyon namin ng WSD dun sa Manila Bay, part na pala ng Bataan. So the claimant moved for the quashal of the WSD on the ground that the MICP has no territorial jurisdiction over the vessel kasi nasa Bataan siya. So it is the port of Limay ang may territorial jurisdiction nun. So anong mangyayari doon?
Yes, my lord.
So the warrant of seizure and detention was quashed. Pinas ng district collector yun. Pero anong mangyayari doon? Anong effect nun? This is without prejudice to the issuance of WSD pa rin. So pwedeng filean pa rin ng i-recommend pa rin ng issuance ng WSD sa Limay. Pero it's up to the Port of Limay as to whether or not to issue a WSD or not. Yun yung
How can I serve?
yun yung effect niyan. Ay kukwas dito pero pwede pa rin ma-issuean ng WSD in another
The enemy is
jurisdiction.
attacking.
Next slide.
Apothecary here.
When the concerned regulatory agency in cases of regulated goods has issued the necessary
Praise the
clearances or licenses in accordance with its governing laws and regulations. So ito na naman siguro, hindi niya naibigay kaagad pero meron naman
Direct
pala.
us to the enemy.
So that is also a ground
Taking
for
heavy fire.
quashing or the quashal of the warrant of seizure and detention. Next slide.
Fear denies faith. Fear
When to
our
file
wrath.
motion to quash or recall,
Apothecary
the
here.
importer or its authorized representative may file a verified motion to quash or recall the WSD at any time prior to the completion of
Direct us
presentation
to
of
the enemy.
evidence. So, motion to leave, recall, or set aside the WSD shall be deemed as motion to quash. So, pare-pareho lang yan. Next slide, please.
Yes, most beneficent one.
The motion to quash shall be resolved by the district collector within 15 working days from the date of submission of the said matter for resolution. In case the district collector allows the quashal of the WSD, he shall seek clearance from the commissioner by transmitting the entire records of the case within 2 working days from the date of issuance of the quashal order. Next slide.
Faith is our shield. Consolidating position on the attack protocol 23.
Next slide, please.
Taking heavy fire.
Next slide, please.
The fallen shall be forever remembered as
So,
the
if the
Emperor's
commissioner
finest.
timely reverses the order of the district collector allowing the quashal of the WSD,
Direct us
the
to
same shall be
enemy.
remanded to this district collector for the continuance of the
The
forfeiture
fallen shall be
proceedings.
forever remembered as
So,
the
yung
Emperor's
quashal
finest.
order po, pag merong order to quash po issued by the district collector,
Taking damage.
parang automatic review din yan ang mangyayari. Inaakyat yan sa Commissioner of Customs. So, pwede niyang i-affirm yun.
The
Pag
battlefield
in-affirm niya,
awaits is
pwede
our
niyang
shield.
i-release yun. Pero pagka ni-reverse niya,
Here to serve.
babalik yan sa district collector and the
We stand ready.
forfeiture proceeding will proceed. Next, please. So, settlement of forfeiture cases.
Ever vigilant.
Next slide. Subject to the approval of the commissioner, the district
Yes, my
collector
lord.
may allow the settlement by payment of fine or the redemption of forfeited goods during the course of the
Scouts here.
forfeiture proceedings.
Gathering intelligence.
However, the commissioner may accept the
Scouts
settlement
advance.
by
We'll move
redemption
ahead.
The
and
battlefield
mark
of
enemy
any forfeiture
positions.
case on appeal. So, ito, himayin natin what are the
Yes, my lord.
modes of settlement under this
To the
provision.
skies.
Number 1 is settlement by
As
payment
your
of
command.
fine of 30%. Another one is redemption of the forfeited goods by paying the
The
redemption
enemy is
value.
attacking. Faith is our shield.
So, next slide.
What is your order?
The offer of settlement shall be made in writing
Yes, my lord. On
and
patrol.
duly sworn under oath
Yes, my lord.
and addressed to the district
Commencing
collector or office
infiltration.
of the commissioner.
Search commencing.
Offer of settlement may either
Search
be through
commencing.
payment of fine or payment of redemption value. Ito
We'll move
sinasabi
ahead
ko.
and mark
So,
any
when
enemy
we-
positions.
Kailan yung proper time na mag-offer ka ng settlement? It depends. When your offer is settlement by
At
payment
your
of fine,
command,
you can only do that
we'll move ahead
in the
and
district
mark any
level.
enemy positions.
So kung natalo ka dito,
Commencing
halimbawa,
infiltration.
wala kang in-offer doon sa collector's level, eh forfeited yung kargamento mo. Pwede ka ba on appeal mag-offer ka ng settlement by payment of fine? That cannot be. Hindi po pwede
To the skies.
yung settlement by payment of fine
Weapons at ready.
on appeal.
Time.
When we say on appeal, nasa commissioner's level na yan.
Ever vigilant.
Na-forfeit sa district, then napagtanto mo na baka gusto ko mag-file ng offer of settlement by payment of fine, hindi po siya po
To the
pwede.
skies.
Halimbawa naman, pagka offer of redemption, payment of redemption value, pwede dun sa district level, pwede rin kung hindi mo nag-offer ng payment of redemption value, pero pag pinorfeit ng ng district collector
What is your order?
and inappeal mo yan, doon sa commissioner's level, pwede ka pa rin mag-offer ng payment of redemption value. Yun po yung kaibahan niyan. Hindi na po pwede yung offer of settlement by payment of fine pag nasa commissioner's level na. Pag doon mo lang in-offer, hindi po pwede yun. Next slide, please. Next slide.
Scouts ready.
So either settlement by payment of fine or redemption
I
of
serve?
forfeited goods
Scouts ready.
may be allowed under
Yes, my
the
lord.
following circumstances. Of
Gathering
course,
intelligence.
there is no fraud
At your
attributable
command.
to the importer,
Getting into
consignee,
position.
or owner.
Commencing
Kailangang walang fraud
infiltration.
attendant to the importation.
We will move ahead and mark any
Another one
enemy
is when the
positions.
goods are not absolutely prohibited.
We will move ahead and mark
So,
any enemy
hindi siya
positions.
absolutely
Yes,
prohibited.
my lord.
So, another one is
Faith is
when the
our
release
shield.
of the goods is not contrary to law. So,
Apothecary
hindi nga
here.
siya absolutely prohibited. Halimbawa,
Beware the
regulated
alien,
goods siya.
the
What are
mutant,
your
the
needs?
heretic.
Pero kahit
At your
regulated goods
command,
siya, contrary to
we
law
will
pa
move
rin
ahead
yung
and mark
pag-release
any
dyan kung
enemy
wala naman yung
positions.
mga necessary
Yes, my lord.
licenses and permits. So, the release of the
Commencing
goods must also
infiltration.
be not contrary to law. Next slide, please.
Enemy is attacking enemy.
Ito, take note that settlement by payment of fine shall not be allowed when the discrepancy in duties and taxes to be paid between what is determined and what is declared amounts to more than 30%.
Yes, my lord. Scouts here.
So yan, hindi ina-allow yan.
Ever vigilant.
So kung nasist yung kargamento mo because of valuation issue,
Faith
pag more
is
than
our shield.
30% yung allegation na discrepancy and hindi mo successfully prove na hindi yun yung value niya at more than 30% pa rin, hindi po pwede yung settlement by payment of fine. Kahit pa walang fraud yan, kahit walang fraud, kung more than 30% yung discrepancy, hindi po pwede ang settlement by payment of fine. Anong po pwede na remedy dyan? Pwede pa rin naman yung payment by
Rally squad.
settlement by payment of the redemption value. Po pwede pa rin naman yun. Pero of course, alam naman natin na mas malaki talagang binabayaran pagka yung redemption value.
At your command,
Provided further na
gathering
walang
intelligence.
fraud. Kailangan pa rin yung walang fraud, it is not absolutely prohibited, and the release is not contrary to law. Lagi-laging nandoon yun.
Here to
Whether
serve.
it is by payment of fine or by payment of the redemption value. Next slide, please. Next slide. Next slide, please. Upon payment of the fine or redemption value, the goods shall be released, and all liabilities which may be attached to the goods shall be discharged without prejudice to the filing of administrative or criminal case against the importer, owner, or
And carry
authorized
a big gun.
representative. The payment of fine or redemption value shall be without prejudice to fines and charges to be imposed by the port authorities. Next slide, please. Ito, payment of surcharge for undeclared baggage sa airport po ito. Next slide. Undeclared dutiable value, dutiable goods brought by any person arriving in the Philippines shall be seized through the issuance of held baggage receipt.
Scouts here.
However, the release of the
Search commencing.
seized undeclared goods
Search
shall be allowed
commencing.
when importation is not contrary to law and the surcharge of 30% of the landed cost in addition to
Yes,
the
most
duties, taxes, and
beneficent one.
other charges shall be paid. So ito, held baggage receipt
Praise
is
the
issued
Emperor.
instead of WSD.
How can I serve?
Next slide.
The fallen shall be forever remembered as the
So the
Emperor's
decision of
finest.
the district collector.
How can I serve? I follow your commands.
The decision of the district collector shall include a
The
declaration
fallen
for
shall be
forfeiture
forever
or
remembered
release,
as the Emperor's finest.
the imposition of a fine or redemption of the
Search
goods,
commencing.
or such other actions as may be
Commencing
proper.
infiltration.
Next slide. Next slide, please.
Predator at your command.
Decision by the district collector in case of an offer of settlement was made shall be subject to clearance and review of the commissioner, provided that a period to resolve shall not run until the complete records of the case is received by the office of the commissioner. Provided finally that the same shall not be subject to automatic review of the Secretary of Finance. So pagka settlement, pagka in-affirm yan ng commissioner, hindi naman yan considered kasi na yung acceptance of the offer of settlement is not considered as a decision adverse to the government. Take note of that. So kung may affirmation by the commissioner of the decision of the district collector accepting the offer of settlement, hindi po yan aakyat sa Secretary of Finance. Kasi hindi siya considered as decision adverse to the government. Next slide. So appeal to the commissioner.
He who stands with me shall be my brother.
The importer or exporter or any stakeholder directly affected by the adverse decision of the district collector may appeal the decision by filing a notice of appeal with a corresponding memorandum of appeal within 15 days or 5 days in case of perishable goods from receipt thereof. So kung may adverse decision to the importer, pwedeng mag-appeal yung importer or yung exporter to the commissioner within 15 days. So anong kailangan niyang isubmit? Isusubmit po niya yung notice of appeal with the corresponding memorandum of appeal. And of course, magbabayad din siya ng appeal fee. So where should you file or submit the notice of appeal and the memorandum of appeal? Doon po sa district collector. Hindi po doon sa commissioner. Doon po sinusubmit ha. And after the submission of the notice of appeal and the memorandum on appeal, tapos nakabayad na ng appeal fee, the law division or the district collector shall transmit the entire case to the commissioner. So yun po yun. So it should be filed within 15 days. Next slide.
The fallen shall be forever remembered as
Next
the
slide,
Emperor's
please.
finest.
So the filing of a notice of appeal without the corresponding memorandum on appeal shall
No
likewise
servant of
be
the Emperor shall
dismissed.
fall apart here.
So pag kulang ng isa doon, notice of appeal lang, walang memorandum on appeal,
The fallen shall be
madidismiss
forever
po yan.
remembered as the Emperor's
Madidismiss
finest.
din po pag wala yung required appeal fee.
The enemy is attacking.
Or binayaran mo nga, pero after ng reglementary period to file an appeal, that is 15 days. So, kailangan mo rin bayaran yung appeal fee within 15 days from receipt of the final decision of the district collector. Next slide.
We are still unearthing more Eldar explosives and demolition
So,
charges.
this is automatic
but we dare
review.
not move them. We
Like the
replace
commissioner
their
shall
triggering
automatically
mechanisms,
review
however.
any
That is
decision by
all
the
I
district
care to do
collector
with
adverse to
such
the government.
xenotech. Was this a trap?
So the
No.
district collector
By the
shall
placement
elevate
of the
the entire
charges,
records
it is
of the
likely
case
they
to
plan
the
to
appellate
collapse this
division
area,
within 5 working
burying
days
the
from the
marker
issuance
and
of the
anyone
decision.
near it. They failed.
So as of copy shall also
Isidore,
be
study the marker and see
sent
where
to
it
the
leads us
appellate
next.
division of
Captain,
the legal service. Next
Inquisitor
slide.
Toth has arrived. Of course he has.
When no decision is rendered
Yes,
within the
Captain, it
prescribed
is an
period or
impressive
when the
sight.
decision
But I
adverse
never
to the
claimed
government is
chaos and
rendered
never
by
set
the
foot on this
commissioner
planet before.
involving goods
I
with
said
free
that
on
if
board
something
or
were here,
FCA
the
value of 10
impending
million
storm
pesos
would
or more,
eliminate that
the
threat.
records of the
Best we
decision
not
of the
remain
commissioner or the
to
district
share
collector
his
under
fate.
review
And
as
as
the
I
case may be shall
explained,
be elevated
Inquisitor,
to the
the
Secretary of
Blood
Finance
Ravens will remain
within
until the
5
last
working days
possible moment.
from the lapse
Until that happens, in
of the
2
period
or
to
3
resolve.
days hence,
So ito,
I plan on pursuing this
kailan siya
riddle.
mapupunta
Captain,
sa
I
Secretary
do
of
not
Finance?
presume to question your decisions
Pag walang
concerning the
decision
Blood
na
Ravens.
ni-render yung
But when it comes to employing the colonel
commissioner
superior
or
guard in your
when the
quest,
decision
My
is adverse
quest.
to the
Yet
government
again, you accuse me of pursuing my personal interests.
involving
It is my duty
goods
and
with
yours to
FOB or FCA
expunge any
value of
scent of heresy
10
or chaos.
million or
you
more.
overstep yourself.
Pagka mas
As
mababa
do
sa 10
you,
million, hindi na po
Inquisitor.
siya akyat sa
It is not the
Secretary
Colonel's
of
Imperial
Finance.
Guard.
yun po
Their
yun.
lives belong to
Next
the
slide
Emperor.
please.
It is by his mandate and will
The
that
Secretary
I
of
use the
Finance shall
imperial
review the
guard against
decision
the
of the district
forces of
collector or the
disorder and
commissioner.
elevate them in the glory of holy battle.
So,
I see now that coming
the
here
decision
was a
shall be
mistake.
final upon the
If you
Bureau,
are set on a path that will lead you to
subject to
destruction,
appeal
I
to
can do
the
nothing to stop you.
Court of Tax
But I
Appeals.
won't allow you
So
to drag us
kung
down
halimbawa
with you.
ni-reverse
By
ng nung
inquisitorial edict,
Secretary of
I am
Finance
taking
yung
control
decision
of the
and
planet
that is not
Tartarus.
favorable to the
All
importer,
requests for
ang
planetary
gagawin ng
resources,
importer,
including its military,
the importer
will
may
go through
elevate
me.
or may appeal the decision
From
of the
this point
Secretary
on,
of Finance to
you
the
and your
Court
men
of Tax
are
Appeals.
on your own.
Next slide. So, what is decision adverse to the government? Ito yung pinag-uusapan natin kanina. Bakit ko sinabing hindi decision adverse to the government yung acceptance of settlement by payment of fine or redemption value? Kasi dito sa definition, refers to the disposition of the main forfeiture case based on merits which resolves that there is no violation